was Kanye and Weezer mashups. They weren't terrible.
Yeah, Weezer. That album? Is that what you're
I
talking?
think so.
This is Vaporwave Weezer.
This is bad.
I kind of dig it.
I don't.
I mean, it's just good life. Like, it's still good life. It's just really slow.
This kind of rock noise does not lend itself to.
I'm gonna skip to the.
Nope, it's just good life.
You could take those vocals out and put it on something more digital. I think it would sound better.
I wonder what happens if I play it at 2x speed.
Oh.
Do 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 do.
I just want the summer to end.
Hello and welcome to In the Garage, a podcast about Weezer and sometimes Vaporwave. Hope you include the part where we were listening to Weezer Vaporwave, which we've learned is just Weezer slowed down. I know you can't reply to that because I haven't introduced you yet. I'll introduce myself first, as is customary. I'm Chris. Love the band Weezer. Think they're pretty cool. Excited to talk about this album. I'm going to introduce the person to my right. He's smiling at me. He looks excited. He's clapping his hands. And his name's Chaz. Chaz, how you doing today?
I'm doing a lot better now, but had a pretty rough afternoon, I think.
Yeah? You think?
Tired, felt groggy.
F-sex.
I don't know.
That's a word.
Is that a word?
Absolutely.
Is that a word that describes the way I
Yes,
was
you
feeling
nailed it.
now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Good.
Yeah.
But you're feeling okay now?
Got some food in me, drank some water, laid down on the sofa, watched some literal garbage on YouTube.
You were playing some PlayStation 1 as well, is that correct? Or was that earlier?
That was a bit earlier, but
Okay.
yeah, had some Final Fantasy V going.
Nice. Chaz, I'm going to turn away from you. Going to turn to, it's really like an 11 o'clock type situation. He's the guy who really likes this album. It's Tyler. Tyler, what's up?
I feel free.
What's that?
That's just from the one song.
song?
I'm pretty good.
What song?
What's it called?
Oh,
I think he's making this one up.
Turning to the Google quickly.
No,
Google, I feel free lyrics.
No, it's the Kids See Ghosts. It's that Kid Cudi and the Kanye thing.
Kid Kanye?
So you
Yes.
feel
Hey, why didn't
free.
they call it Kid Kanye?
Why didn't they?
Why didn't they call it Kid Contact?
Why would they be that dumb? Oh,
Like
it's called Free. That's what it's
Are
called.
there a bunch of E's on it?
Yes.
Oh.
That's why I made that noise to indicate that.
I love being free. It's awesome. I mean, I hate it. Anyways, Tyler, how you doing today?
I was thinking for a while when I first heard Kids See Ghosts. I'm like, oh, it'd be funny to just go, I feel free on the podcast when Chris asked how I'm doing. And then I got fired from my job. So I do feel free.
Ooh, yes, Tyler famously had a crazy job. It was a crazy situation. We could start a whole
We could have a
podcast
podcast
it.
about this job.
But
About Tyler's work drama.
we don't want to do that because it'll spoil the screenplay that we're writing about your work drama. It's going to be great.
Oh, thanks for including me, guys.
I meant
said we.
a global we.
Oh, I thought you guys had already talked about this at some other point behind my back.
We did already talk about it, but you were there, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Anyways,
all of our conversations take place with all of us.
that's
in the
true.
room.
This is bad podcast, though.
This album got me into Weezer. I did not like Weezer before I heard this album. Chaz would just like to play random Weezer songs
He would,
around.
he would torment you, let's be real.
Yeah,
It's true, I did.
it's real. Yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it. Just playing the playing of the random Weezer songs around the apartment.
Yeah.
And he does it to me one random summer day. I want to say last year, and I storm into my room, and he's playing some little mind game. He gets me into my room, and I hear "Thank
you
God
into
for
your
Girls" floating through the air into my room, and I go, I actually, if I don't know if you remember this, I went out and go, are you still playing Weezer? Like, or did you switch to another band?
I
And he
remember
went,
that.
No, this is Weezer. And I went, oh, what?
At that point, I'm like, it's happening. That's how everyone gets into Weezer. They hate them. They'll say, oh, why do you like Weezer so much? Like, they're shit. And then eventually it's one song clicks with them, and then every other song just falls into place.
This phrase has been very appropriate in multiple areas of my life lately, but you hate it until you love it.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it's like the opposite of your job.
It's true.
Now, I know it's hard to articulate not liking something when you like it now, but do you know why it was so difficult for you to grasp onto Weezer before this happened?
I will say White has...
Well, it makes right. Let's just get that out of the way. Are you marking a point to edit that out?
I would say they do a lot to smooth over the awkwardness that defines a lot of earlier Weezer albums. Like, The Good Life is so... We were playing that earlier. It's so... And I was reminded how it's so, kind of like almost robotic.
Abrasive?
Yeah.
It's abrasive, and like the actual riff is just so like dum, no, it's very robotic and obtuse in a way, and a lot of the Blue Album stuff is like that. And the White Album is just so smooth, like it goes down so nice.
That's true.
It's true.
I'm the connoisseur of context around here, so obviously this is following up Everything Will Be All Right. Hope everyone enjoyed that episode with Gavin. Very
And Bridget for one word.
crazy record, fun times, great album, but well received critically. Everything Will Be All Right was
I thought
Not
you
a
were,
top seller.
not a top seller.
It sold well.
I thought you were talking about our last episode was well received.
Well received critically, commercially not viable.
By me as I edit it.
Yeah, so
Could you imagine if someone did a podcast reviewing our podcast?
that's what we're gonna do.
Today we're going to talk about episode 3 of In the Garage, and
it's just always, it's too long. Didn't do very well commercially, even though people liked it. So what do you do when you have a critical hit, not in the Final Fantasy V sense, but a
you
commercial
say,
flop?
so long, Rick.
You say so long, Rick, and you also say so long, our manager. So they fire their manager, and they pick up this new management company called Crush Management. And then apparently, like right off the bat, new manager says, hey, you guys should do a beach album. And they go, that's a great idea, new manager. We're glad we hired you. Why didn't we think of that sooner? So they call up the Weezer hotline, get the team together, and they record this album produced by a little fella by the name of Jake Sinclair. We may have mentioned him on a previous episode. He was the engineer for open bracket. If you're wondering if I want you to, close bracket, I want you to. He was also the frontman of a Weezer cover band called Wannabeezer, which is pretty good.
So this is like generation 2 after Scott being a Weezer fan who joined the band.
Yeah,
This is another Weezer fan who got to work
yeah.
with
This
them.
guy's like in his early 30s now. Mm-hmm. So like he was right there for the Weezer content. So Rivers comes in. He's got 250 songs, classic.
He comes with like an exponentially larger amount of songs.
Yeah.
Every-
Oh yeah, because every time he writes 100 songs, and usually they don't use
uses, like,
any
10.
of them. So it's like, I've still got this 100, and I wrote another 100. Like, what do I do? So again, he comes in with 250 songs in a Dropbox or songs/demos, and they end up using one, California Kids. And apparently the situation was this guy, Jake Sinclair, had a very heavy influence on the album, apparently. So the idea was, Rivers says that he was sort of the guy who wanted to be experimental and kind of out there and crazy, And Jake Sinclair he describes as a conservative voice, and he's the voice of the fans, as Rivers puts it. So he's sort of tempering Rivers' experimentality to sort of keep things steady, which probably contributes to the going down easy that you were talking about. So they put out "Do You Want to Get High" and "Thank God for Girls" as singles.
First time in Weezer's entire discography that they pick a first single where I'm like, oh, you know what? That's a good first single.
Well, I would disagree. It's not the most accessible song off the album for me. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but
two weird songs that kind of stick out like sore thumbs on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on a 10-song album,
I feel like,
like the entire middle segment is very weird and bizarre and like deeply psychological and all sorts of things.
I feel like picking "Thank God for Girls" is almost the equivalent of like picking El Scorcho for a first single. It's a great song, kind of grows on you, but it's not the most accessible song on the album.
Listening to the album now, it's like all of these songs are just a lot. Like there's a lot going on, and it all kind of hits you in the face. And I don't even know which one you would pick as the first single.
I feel like "The King of the World" was a single. Like I think that was the third single.
Half the songs on the album were singles released before the album came out, which is interesting way of doing things.
Yeah. So "Do You Want to Get High" and "Thank God for Girls" they came out around I think October is when "Do You Want to Get High" was released.
2015.
Yeah, late. Yeah. So like at the tail end of 2015, there was no album announced.
Yeah.
These were just like, hey, there's like 2 new Weezer songs basically. And then the album wasn't announced until the next January. It gets released in April 1st, I believe. Did they also release Red? Oh no, Pork and Beans came out
April 1st.
April 1st, 2008.
Wow.
Nearly 10 years ago. Well, more than 10 years ago from us. I was talking about in relation to the White Album. Yeah. But so they finally come out with this album, and you talked about the middle section of this album, Tyler, which I want to dig into a little because a lot of times people talk about this as a concept album, not unlike the last album. People seem keen to foist the concept album concept onto them. Do you think that holds water here?
I would say that concept album as a phrase implies a very specific idea upon which like my mind goes to Ziggy Stardust, whatever
Sgt. Pepper's,
the Who one, Tommy, yeah, where it's like you have a character, like you could transfer it to a musical. You could transfer it to a musical, and like all of the songs would make like you are plugging in parts of a story.
Yeah,
and I think one step below that, it's like beyond there being acts and like, oh, now he goes to a bar, now he gets stabbed. Like there below that, there's an idea of like a mood piece album where all of the songs together contribute like a palette that is a very specific picture, but it's not like this album doesn't have characters or anything.
But some people like to think that it does. So the Pitchfork review of it describes it as a 3-act tale of geek meets girl, followed by boy gets heart torn asunder. I guess they make up in the end, but like it doesn't really work.
There's no real resolution to any sort of.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's just like he's still alone. Like Endless Bummer, I guess, would kind of be like the unhappy ending.
Yeah, but it ends on a rather. The lyrical note is not happy, but like the overall musical one is good, and like Endless Bummer, when we get to it, the song is just pure like catharsis, and like end of August, like wow, what a summer. I would call Wolf by Tyler, the Creator, more of a concept album, and that is not even really a concept album. There's like a vague idea of him going to camp, and there's a bike and a girl and like another but there's no real like, you couldn't sit down and write it out.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a general
What do you guys think with like the album kind of starting off in California Kids with like the beach sounds, like the seagulls, and then also like ending on it? I think that kind of contributes to it being a concept album in a way where it's like, oh, this is all sort of like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's definitely a thematically cohesive album and a musically cohesive album for the most part. I don't think that makes a concept album necessarily.
Yeah.
What I wrote down for California Kids is that this sets the stage. This album is like paints one singular picture of California as a place of like very psychological beauty and desperation.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I did agree with, I was reading some review that basically describes it as like Weezer's version of California, or like a Weezerized version of California.
Weezerized and just a very like almost fantastical. He's name dropping so many things that we'll get through for each song.
Yeah, the lyrical references in this.
There's
are
this
off the charts.
fantastical, somewhat magical kind of air to it, especially songs like Summer Lane. But yeah, it's really just like like California's through their lens, and like if this album does have a main character, like it is just California.
It's like how New York City is the fifth Sex and the City character.
Interesting.
Is
Also say that New York City is like the fifth like Seinfeld character. The fifth Friends.
Now we're
Okay,
talking.
yeah.
I feel like Seinfeld fits that best of all, but we'll save that for our Seinfeld podcast, where we do a 2.5-hour episode on every episode of Seinfeld.
I don't know how many 90s sitcoms set in New York were like this, but I know with Friends, like the entire thing was shot in LA. And they just had like the intercutting like location shots of LA. Just like one helicopter flew around New York once, and that was like all of the location shots for all of Friends.
The one thing I did want to bring up before we get into the songs themselves is that Rivers, he did a sort of when I was writing about it, I called it a lyrical gimmick here to write a lot of the album. He had this spreadsheet. He fucking loves his spreadsheets, doesn't he? So basically he just had a bunch of phrases that had various syllable lengths. And so he would just cut and paste different phrases to write the lyrics of this album. And there's this episode of the Song Exploder podcast where he talks about Summer Lane and Drunk Dory.
It's a really good
It is really good.
thingy.
Where it's like, yeah, like he basically just like, what's like an 8-syllable phrase that I can use? And he had like Summer Lane and Drunk Dory written down. We'll get into why later. And was just like, great, plug it in. It's weird that he did that, which sounds like a terrible idea. Like, sounds like that's the exact opposite of how I would think to write a song, but it kind of works.
Well, to be honest, I make my own music for fun, and I have not gone down to the syllable yet, but I have found that rather than sitting down and trying to write one song at a time,
Right.
I've gotten way more success out of just writing lyrics with no end in sight.
Right.
And you just get a big pool of lyrics, and then basically once you have these beats going, you kind of like dip in and out of this pool of lyrics and go, oh, what matches, what doesn't.
Right. Yeah. That I guess that makes it make more sense. Rivers used to have this Tumblr blog, which would basically just be like stream of consciousness, and some people noticed that some of the lyrics on this album were taken from that blog. So I think that's the same idea, that he was just like writing stuff and you're jacking your dick to that.
Nice jacking his dick to this.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I turned my head to the right and Chaz's shirt was gone. I thought...
No, it's still here. I'm just not wearing it.
Still draped around his torso.
So...
Rivers seems overly obsessed with the songwriting process in a very robotic way.
Yes, he
that
fucking
most
loves
songwriters
writing
are not.
songs.
Like Paul McCartney, I'm not going to compare Rivers to Paul McCartney, but Paul McCartney is like very like organic, like, oh, you know,
I just love the tune.
we're just plunking away. And
I was just having a plink on me ivories. Pretty good.
Yeah, actually.
I'm glad you like it. That's mean. It's good. No, Rivers, like, you know, like you said in that Song Exploder podcast, he seems so interested in his own creative process, which is weird because we've watched it go awry so many times. And for him to... But it's so interesting that he is so robotic about it this time, and that it works so well, and that there's so much stream of consciousness seeming things lyrically in this album, and it all somehow, like, each song comes together with this great focus and this kind of driving story, except for Summer Lane, which I'd say is the one song that does
That song really feels like he cut and pasted a bunch of words of varying syllable lengths.
Yeah.
But every other song feels very like one line at a time was generated, but they all flow together so well.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what makes it like sound good lyrically, is that like every line is good, and then it's like once you're working from a basis of good lyrics, then you can make a good song out of those lyrics.
It's also interesting that someone who's written like 3,000 songs already completely kind of seemed to switch up his entire process for it. And the end result was so good.
Yeah. It's 10 songs long, 34 minutes, released through their management company, I guess. It's released through quote unquote Crush Music. They're managed by Crush Management. I don't know how that works. Music industry shit is weird, but distributed by Atlantic. So, you've got California Kids.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, clockwise.
Wind in our sail.
Singular, not sales.
I said sail.
I'm just making it clear.
Thank God for girls, plural.
Open bracket.
Fuck, how did
The one song on the album that has a parentheses. Open bracket, girl, we gotta. Close bracket, good thing.
Do you want to get high?
King of the world.
Summer Elaine and Drunk Dory,
L.A. Girls.
otherwise known as La Girls.
Ooh. Jacked up.
Endless Bummer.
Endless bumhole.
That's not funny.
It can be
It
cut.
really
It's
isn't.
not funny.
So, this is a very, I can't wait to go through this list.
Oh.
It's very exciting to us and us alone. But the first song on our list, we're bringing back an old Weezer trope, a classic. First song on the album, at the bottom,
Oh.
California
interesting.
Kids. What do we think? It was nearly universally, it was in the bottom 2 of all of our lists. So what do we, I mean, it's not a bad song, I'll say that. It's sort of a recreation or like a reworked version of a Scott and Rivers song, which is something we'll probably talk about one of these days, but basically a Rivers side project. Oh, I burped.
Wait, did the Scott and Rivers one come out before this one?
Yeah,
Did
it was
not
released
know that.
Christmas 2014 was the Scott and Rivers song California. Written by Rivers and our old friend Dan Wilson.
I love it. It's so good. It's like it physically hurt me to
Yeah.
order the songs on this album because they're all so good. There's a pretty distinct formula to the structure of all of them.
Yeah.
Intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge that builds to some crescendo, sometimes a solo, final section, end of the song. This hits all those beats, and it is just so energetic, so simple, so good. Like I said, sets the stage of California as a place where like inner feelings are very visible and a lot of interactions have a lot of meaning, and Rivers is kind of there, kind of dinking around as a 40 or something year old man.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like he's writing from a much younger perspective
Yeah.
in pretty
Yeah.
much this entire album.
And a very optimistic perspective.
for sure. And some of it is like literally it's about stuff that was in his past like 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of really like coming of age songs on this album.
That's kind of weird to me because they had success, maybe not commercially, but last album they like their songs were very much like they felt like they were from a band that they were from people that were their age and were like parents
Yeah.
and all that stuff. This and Everything Will Be Alright to me kind of feel like polar opposites in terms of like Everything Will Be Alright was all about how he
passage
didn't
of
want to
time.
be that, and he didn't want to be a pop guy anymore. He wanted to be a rocker guy.
Go back to the roots.
Yeah. Whereas this, it feels like it obviously very Beach Boys inspired, but like kind of poppy, like fun songs.
Well, like you said, he had this push and pull with the producer the whole time. So it seems like he was kind of outputting creativity in all directions and kind of having this second peak as an artist. And Mr. Sinclair was kind of directing into this one direction, going, no, go Beach Boys, go very, 60s inspired, very poppy.
Got some
And
ooh-wee-oos on this song.
we've got the ooh-ees. And honestly, lyrically, there's such a great mix of like vitality and optimism and kind of this darker side of it. Because like the first few lines are, when you wake up, cobwebs on your eyelids, stuck in rigor mortis. It's like, it's not a pleasant picture to paint. But it's all about the optimism of, if you're ever in trouble, like California and the people in it will come to your rescue.
Yeah, it portrays California, like pretty much how anyone who's not from California views California. It feels like it's like California is the place where it's sunny all the time, and like movie stars live there. Like,
Yeah, there's an obsession with like agelessness.
Yeah.
yeah, like just like sunshine, beaches, happiness, and like, I mean, obviously at the very end he talks about like your friends chilling back in Boston. Like he directly references not being from California, and I really like the line like, just get going till you hit the ocean and you turn Californian, which I don't know, I just found that interesting, like how he's
Yeah.
talking about like changing from not California to California in this idealized way.
Musically, I think.
Musically.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. No, I think
We're building up a shorthand for our own jokes. It's like the end result on a linear timeline. We're just like making like eye motions at each other.
Where we reach it. The end of this podcast is we turn into a black hole.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably one of the more like formulaic sounding songs on the album. Like it's got a very cliche sounding intro with that like guitar bit. It's got a very basic like poppy sounding verse, like very Weezer there. It really sets the tone for the album, because this seems like almost like if you averaged the songs on the album, this would be one of them.
It's an album track.
Yeah, exactly. They keep it interesting at points though. A lot of times in this. Pardon?
Pat.
Yeah,
The drumming.
Well, exactly. No, I think a lot of the drumming on this album has kind of got like a bit of a quirky beat to it, which this one definitely has. And there's a lot of like interesting kind of lead guitar work over parts. Like some of the interesting lead work on this album, like over the second half of the chorus, where it almost is playing like the El Scorcho pattern, but playing it in like the chords of this song, like the down 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 down. That bit, right?
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
It's very weird that at this point in their career, a lot of Weezer songs can be basically defined as like all of the like spliced together from good songs that they did before.
It's true. We
Like,
were talking about
The bass line in King of the World.
Yeah, King of the World. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, I really like what you said about how like if you averaged out everything on this album, I feel like you would end up with this song, because it does feel like this album is like 50% Beach Boys, like clearly just like surf type music, like jangly pop songs, and then the other half is like, what am I listening to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this kind of splits the difference. Like it is like a Weezerized version of a Beach Boys song, like, which I think is what they were going for with this album generally.
And in terms of mixing, we said on everything that Pat was just like the drums were just so ginormous and big and
Yeah.
stomping. And I'd say the feel is very different in terms of like the mixing.
Feels like laid back almost, like, you know, kind of the intro they sort of do with like the weird drum thing in Burnt Jam, where it's like,
yeah.
that's kind of like the quirky feeling I get with
Pat's doing a lot of different like little tiny fills and
Yeah.
stuff that you don't notice until like the third or fourth re-listen. But
He loves the like idiosyncratic fills.
on this song, there seems to be so much more like a lot of songs previous, like the drumming is good on older songs, but it's like it's a loop and he's moving from one loop to the other. And now it's like the drums are just always switching it up, always either pushing forward or pulling back. And it feels like everyone, for the first time, kind of following his lead. And like a lot of there's so many tiny little solo things that are just kind of off to the side and they're kind of behind the drum set. And listening to it today, like what really stuck out to me was how big the drums are and how just they're really going nuts, but there's so many different things going on and they're all just following that ebb and flow.
Yeah, which is cool because usually on like a Beach Boys like thing or like a surf song, it'll be very, very simple. Like I'm thinking of like something like "Girl, We Got a Good Thing." Like really, you could do that the percussion for that song with just like a tambourine going like, ch 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 ch.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't just do that, which I think is to its benefit. So the number 9 song is a song that I was surprised to see it quite as unpopular as it was. And that's a little track called L.A. Girls'. Girls'.
I think it's just girls.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, this song...
I think he's right.
Very Blue Album-ish, a lot of people say.
Yeah.
Specifically Suzanne, which is a B-side. I think it's because of the 6/8 time signature that people say that.
Well, Brian Bell said that in this quote I'm looking at right here.
Ooh, perfect.
I don't really see this as much as a Blue Album song. I don't know what it is. It just I kind of see it in the way where it's like a song that a lot of people like, and I think it's a really good song, but there's just a part of it that doesn't click with me. The same sort of situation I get with My Name is Jonas or Undone or Say It Ain't So. All these songs are like great songs, but there's just not enough like melodic like catchiness that kind of draws me into it. Mm-hmm. It's just almost more like raw, sort of. More of like a rocky song than a, I don't know, like a poppy song.
Yeah, it is like a rocky... Like, the reason I think it sounds like a Blue Album song is the guitars mainly, like, they kind of like...
Are going crazy in the Blue Album style way.
Yeah, they're kind of chunky, but they're also like... They're riffing real light, you know?
Back when Say It Ain't So was new and we hadn't all had it pounded into our heads a bajillion times, the way it was switching between, like, this quick little chord work and, like, the down out of the chorus... It is that same switching between light and heavy.
Or My Name is Jonas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Going from the finger picked to the chunky boy.
Mm-hmm. I
And
actually played
it's-
with a regular pick.
Okay. Acoustic. What? You're denying that it's acoustic? Oh, you're bad.
Oh, I've been a bad boy.
Tyler, please continue. What do you think about this song?
My opinion slightly changed on this song when I had liked this album for a long time before I actually watched the Anthony Fantano review of it. And specifically, he said of this song...
Oh, true, yeah, you don't need to listen to this 2-hour episode. Anthony Fantano does one.
Talked about it for 12 minutes. LA Girls was one of my least favorite songs at the time that I watched that review. And then he said LA Girls was one of his favorites. And he said because LA Girls structurally feels like they are pulling on an even older source material than they are for like Beach Boys stuff for the rest of the album. And this song feels like it's from like the 40s or the 50s. And then he does this little like LA Girls and like snapping his fingers and you're like, oh, like that's the they're playing like off of that of like some Elvis style like finger snappy song. And once like that clicked in my head, like, oh, Pat is drumming around that like the obvious
that pulse.
beat.
Yeah.
So like that it felt very skittish before that, and then it's like, oh, they are deliberately avoiding the obvious beat that the song is going off of.
Yeah, and I
then
think
it was like,
that's...
oh, yeah, okay.
On most of these songs, like, there's a very obvious pulse to, like, surf songs, I feel like. Like, you can kind of, like, tap your toe to it very easily. Mm-hmm. But then, like, they avoid just doing the very rote, like...
I guess that's just a very roundabout way to say this song is in 6/8. So Brian worked on this song musically with the help of this guy named Luther Russell. And he said those two, like, worked the whole music thing out and submitted, like, the whole instrumental to Rivers. And said, like, do whatever for it. And then he started to get it back. And there's, like, that... crazy Rivers like going off the lyrical deep end that we're seeing on the rest of this album. Like the chorus quotes the Jabberwocky line from Lewis Carroll. Mm-hmm. Verse 1 starts with I'm mixing ammonia and bleach, and it is just this crazy mix of like desperation and beauty and admiration.
It's a good song.
A really good song.
Yeah. Chaz, what do you think about this track?
This is one where I feel like I don't have a whole lot to say about this. I think it's a good song. There's some great guitar work in there. I think a lot of the songs on this album have some really good like lead work, especially even like over like parts where there's like
There's no solo
lyrics
going on, but someone's still like soloing away.
Yeah, exactly. Like under like choruses or verses or pre-choruses or bridges or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of got the quirky drums as well, but that may just be chalked up to the 6/8 time on it. I really don't have a lot to say about this one.
All right.
No,
I find it great how many things he's name dropping.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
like, I
though,
always appreciate it when a singer is just named like Dante and Beatrice, like just a reference to the Divine Comedy, which like it doesn't really have much to do with the rest of the song. Like
yeah, really good
just
lyrics. For
lighting
sure.
a candle, but basically whenever he has a chance to make some weird obscure word choice or reference, he takes it, and that's always great.
Yeah, I think the problem with this song is it's not about that much. Like,
It's more an emotional state.
yeah, the line is "L.A. girls, please act your age," but like he doesn't really like get into that all that much.
yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think he's saying that's bad that they're not. Well, wait, hold on.
Well, if he wants them to act their age, he clearly doesn't like that they're not.
Like that they're
acting their-
older, but they're in LA, so like pretending to still be in their
LA
20s, but they're
girls, please
older,
act your age.
or that they're younger people trying to act older and they should just embrace their youth.
Yeah, I didn't. I was kind of.
That's a good point.
Or maybe he's just being creepy.
I always thought it was like people acting like children, not in a way like
Right.
oh, I want to hold on to my youth, but more so just like girls being like immature to him or something like that.
Sure.
There's definitely a lot of that classic Blue Pinkerton era, like, why don't girls lick
Yeah,
me?
like
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
great. What's wrong with like these girls need to step their game up so they understand how great I am.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I thought it was coming from.
Which is weird that it works so well, given that he's now a married man with
And,
a
like,
child.
40 plus.
I just like to not think about that mostly.
Yeah, this is definitely an album where it's like, please don't think about the fact that I'm like 40 and balding. Like I'm in my.
Hey, Rivers has a solid head of hair.
He's also
He's
well
got a- he's
over
got a
40.
spot. This is an album where it's just like, just try and think of this like it's Blue Album again. Like, don't think about how old we are. And this
Yeah.
is like our 10th album. Yeah, and the other problem with this song is like musically, I think, kind of like California Kids, it's just sort of like an album-y, like musically, it's just very much baseline for this album.
Yeah.
Like it kind of sounds like a less interesting version of Summer Lane and Drunk Dory to me.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's an okay song. And speaking of okay songs,
Hey, come on. Okay, I like all
Okay.
of these
Yeah,
songs.
yeah.
yeah,
I think
let
we
me
all
let
like
me
all
let me
of these
backtrack on
songs.
that. These are like very good. Like California Kids if California Kids is the worst song on your album, you're in great shape. So
And I would say with this, ranking these songs, I feel like a lot of these songs with the three of us very much got into like a rock, paper, scissors situation where like it's a weird edging out where like this whole averaging thing works.
yeah, that's what we were talking about before we started recording. That sort of
It's just one weird, big,
it's
poppy
very
glob.
hard to rank.
Yeah.
Although we did kind of end up with similar tops and bottoms, which did surprise me a little. But like, it's not obvious. Like, there's not an obvious top. There's not an obvious bottom.
It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, Island in the Sun, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I really like the bridge. Like I said, there's a formula where they're always crescending to some big point, and then that's kind of the end of it.
Something I think I've noticed kind of about this album is they've all these songs have like very solid bridges. Whereas in a lot of Weezer songs, like even off Everything Will Be Alright in the end, whereas like I personally prefer that album to this one. I feel like for a lot of the songs, the bridges on that one are kind of the weak point. But on this, a lot of the bridges are like another high point on the song.
Yeah, honestly, like kind of the strong point of this song is them repeating, "Does anybody love anybody as much as I love you, baby?"
Yeah.
It's basically four different. They repeats it 4 times. They basically switch through 4 different beats in the time that he repeats it. They said that Jake Sinclair took them all aside and would work through their parts individually. So like he was like doing a lot to like force them to layer their parts together.
That's very interesting because usually like it's just Rivers comes in with a finished song, and then they figure out what works instrumentally.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was like pushing them to mix it up, switch everything up. It does that, has that classic kind of a bit of that Pinkerton thing where it feels like the guitar solo is kind of there waiting for the whole song, and then like it finally hits that point. He's like, like the solo comes out.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs in this where there is like a sort of bubbling under energy. I mean, like you think of like the beginning of Thank God for Girls, like that is a song where like it starts very softly, but like you immediately feel that like
It is
there's
building
something
up
underneath
yeah.
that's like, yeah, building up.
Yeah, basically, like, I've been thinking a lot, like, what are kind of the rules of good music? And it's like, good music is almost always, like, either building or releasing tension. And when you realize that, like, so many songs, it's just, like, one static bar of instruments or drums that is just repeating. It's like, they are never sitting still on this record. They're either always building up to something or, like, smooth, like, that just happened, and now we're, like, releasing tension.
Right.
Like being good arrangements and composers,
Being
like,
good music.
which is like that comment that apparently like fans made for everything. Like, oh, you should make good music. Like, Jake Sinclair was just like, guys, you should make it good. They're like, oh, right, yeah, we should make it good.
I honestly feel like they just need someone to tell them to make it good.
Yeah, Rivers has it in him. I think he just needs the right direction.
He's got a spreadsheet.
Rivers is like the Vince Russo of music.
Walk me through that one.
Okay, so Vince Russo, back in the late 90s.
Is he one of the Russo brothers? They
He's not one of the Russo brothers.
Arrested Development and some Marvel
Avengers
movies?
stuff. He's not one of the Russo brothers.
Okay.
He in the late 90s, Vince Russo was one of the head writers for the World Wrestling Federation. And the thing about Vince Russo...
He wrote wrestling.
Yeah, I know it's crazy because, like, obviously, like, with wrestling, like, they're legitimate athletic contests and you don't know who's going to win.
So were they not mad at each other?
And everything they say is the truth. But he did something. I don't understand what exactly. No, but he was the writer there. And the thing about Vince Russo was that, like, he sort of transitioned them into their sort of new era. They call it the Attitude Era. You know, back in the like Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin days, he was the one that kind of like made everything like crazy and like super over the top and outrageous. But the thing about Vince Russo is that he had a billion ideas and one of them was really great. And so he needed Vince McMahon to like basically rein him in and actually write the show and like decide what was going to happen. And so then when Vince Russo quit WWF and went to WCW, it was a huge disaster because he had no oversight and he just kind of did a bunch of incredibly stupid shit.
There's a lot of Vinces in this story.
Yeah, it's two of them to be exact. But yeah, and so that's what I feel like Rivers is like. Like Rivers is like, he has so many ideas and he is so creative and he can come up with these outrageous ideas that no one else would ever think of. But with that comes a lot of really bad ideas.
And you need someone who can just like see the forest for the trees.
Both of them feel like people who have a fundamental misunderstanding of why their fans like what they're putting out and need like that guiding influence.
For sure.
Fun tangent for me. But let's move on to the next song, which we were going to do 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, jeez. This is going to be a late night tonight.
This is a little song I like to call Wind in Our Sail. Thoughts on this song? This is a song that you really don't have much to say about it, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, the like lyrics and the imagery of the song I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. Kind of follows like
it's pretty self-explanatory almost.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's some deeper meaning that I don't get.
Well, it's not deeper meanings. Like, you could dive into each of the references.
Yeah.
Like, again, like California Kids transitions pretty seamlessly into Wind in Our Sail. Mm-hmm. And they're including the piano, which I love a lot. It feels like every single time Weezer has a ton of untapped potential with the piano. And every time they start to lean on the piano, it's like, oh, yes, like, more of that.
This album is so piano heavy.
This album is incredibly piano heavy. And yeah.
I think it works well for them.
Just some great word choices. Like, I've never heard a singer ever reference the type of cloud that's in the sky.
Yeah.
And he says it in a cool way. That's something you're like, oh, like
There's a lot of like very specific references and like stuff like that on this album.
Especially this song. Like,
Yeah,
this
this
song
song
is all
is packed
historical
with it.
references.
Albatross Around Their Necks, which is from that one.
Coleridge.
Yes. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And the chorus name drops Charles Darwin and Gregor Mendel, which, again, like, this is all, just the fact that it's in a pop song, I just love. Because, like, one of the first modern songs that I really loved was I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor by Arctic Monkeys. And I just loved the fact that he could name drop Romeo and Juliet and 1984 right in there in this song about dancing in a club. And that always, like, got me in a good way.
I mean, he does that on Da Vinci too, right? Like they talk about Da Vinci, like Stephen Hawking,
Yeah.
talk about Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, lots of... Yeah, they've really picked up the historical references
But,
in
like,
these last two.
It's one thing to go, oh, like, smart people. Da Vinci, Stephen Hawking, Rosetta Stone.
The girls and smart girls.
Yeah.
Tatiana, Yumi, all these famous historical figures.
All these famously smart girls. It's one thing to do that. It's a
They should have put a Z on smart girls. That
Oh,
would have
that would've-
actually made it a better
smart
song.
girls.
You know what's terrible? He's got these songs where he's just name dropping all these really smart guys. Then for smart girls, he just has to make them up.
Yeah, what about Marie Curie?
Yeah.
That would have rhymed too. He could have done it.
Sure. Rhymes
I'm
with
sure he
itself.
could have made up other girls' names to rhyme with Marie Curie if he's using like Tatiana or whatever.
Fatty on. That's what I always hear it as.
Anyway, it's one thing to go, oh, even Da Vinci couldn't paint you. It's another to name drop the type of cloud that's in the sky. I'm gonna,
Cumulonimbus.
yes.
We all said it different ways.
Acidification wiped out the tiger sharks. The fact that that line works in a pop song,
Yeah.
I love. We'll try to save their souls and trust them with the Torah. Like, it doesn't have to mean anything to me. I just love the flow of those words.
Yeah.
We're going to save the last Auk on Funk Island.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like talking about the environment, like, oh, ocean-related things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this is like the very on the nose ocean album, like
there are
ocean,
things. But
like
it's all
slash
contributing
beach.
to this, like, everything's going well, and like as long as we just like keep the wind in our sail,
Yeah.
then it's good.
And you could
then
also say it's about like Weezer themselves, how like
they've got the groove back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have the wind in their sail again.
I think
It's
they,
like, yeah,
they
we
had
got
a
our
lot
groove
of
back
confidence coming out of everything will be all right in the end because it was like so well received, like critically by fans, by like non-fans who are kind of like getting into it.
And I love how it cuts to the bridge they cut to on this song. One is beautiful. I love the way it cuts to it. I love the way the guitars are
Yeah.
driving through these chords. And it says, pushing the stone, up
Stone
the
up
hill,
the
and if it
hill.
rolls
Yeah.
back down, woe, Sisyphus, it rolls back down. On its own, like, you know, Sisyphus pushing
Yeah.
up that stone
Another great
is
historical.
a depressing thing, but was it Sartre? I want to say.
Makes a
Jean
very
Paul Sartre.
cool kinetic sculpture.
Albert Camus wrote that essay where it was like life is all about doing these meaningless tasks over and over again, and like you finding meaning in that, perfecting your craft. So the last line of that is like, you have to imagine Sisyphus happy because he's doing all these meaningless things, and like you just have to find enjoyment in it somehow. And I love that.
Could you imagine how good you'd get at that? Like you'd have like techniques, like where to place your hands, like the angle to like place.
Actually
your
sounds kind of fun.
It's like doing
You'd
like
be
any sort
pretty
of job or
cut.
Yeah,
like
like
anything
becoming
that has like kind of
incredibly
a
skilled.
physical aspect to it. Just like
Yeah.
kind of like coming up with little shortcuts and like
Yeah, or like not even physical, like
Yeah.
anything. Like it feels really good to be really skilled at something and express your skill.
one of my tax professors. He's like a full-time like tax accountant who like just part-time teaches at the university that I go to, and he like in class he'd kind of go through some problems and he'd do them like on Excel up on the screen, and like he doesn't touch the mouse at all, he's just flying around with hotkeys, and it's just like, oh shit, like you can tell this guy does this 8 hours a day. It's insane how fast this guy is and like the stuff he does with it.
There are certain programs where once you know the hotkeys, you're just like, oh,
Like
I'm flying through this
You
thing.
should call them
like
the hot keys.
Age of Empires 2 hotkeys.
Sure.
Anyway,
Hey,
if
you only get one digression per song.
if this song is about Weezer, then the whole pushing the stone up the hill, to my mind, like the closest connection that I think of is just songwriting. Like writing every song is
Exactly.
pushing the stone up the hill.
Like, look
and
at this-
finishing it, you let it roll back down, you start all over again.
Like looking at this album, like it's so like typical Weezer. It's the 10 songs, like typical like length and time. All the songs are kind of like right around the same length. This really seems like one of the other songs on this album where if you averaged all the songs out, like musically, this would be kind of one of the songs. I feel like this one and California Kids and maybe Girl We Got a Good Thing to some extent all kind of fit in there.
this to me is like the album track,
Yeah.
where it really is just like, that's what I think of when you think about like the emotional tone of this album.
Yeah. Kind of the imagery of the album, all that stuff.
Which is weird how we wrote, like we were so hard, it feels like, on a bunch of other albums for being so like formulaic and like a lot of songs sound the same. And then it's like we get to this one, it's like, yo, all the songs sound the same.
And it
Like,
helps when the sound is good.
yeah,
I think
like we were saying with Hurley, like the music just got good again. And it's like it feels like they've just been cranking up the enjoyment factor on each song. And now it's like I can't tell what's different, but I enjoy everything so much more. And that's
Another,
probably just that the drums are so much better.
yeah, like this is another one that has some interesting drums and some like heavy piano usage over it. But another thing they use in this one that I noticed they've been using a lot more on this album was kind of that like mono synth, using it almost in place of a lead guitar, doing like guitar work, which is very reminiscent of the electro comp like EML 101 that Rivers Cuomo used on Pinkerton, where he really like brought that out and used it instead of a lead guitar, like on Tired of Sex or like I Just Threw Out the Love of My Dreams kind of thing. And I think that works really well. It's cool to see that they're bringing it back. I really don't think it's the same synthesizer, but
that
it's
sound,
like a very,
you just hear it, you're like, oh, that's classic Weezer.
yeah, exactly, which was really huge of them in like 1996. Like, who was using a synth as a lead instrument in 1996?
Nobody I know.
Yeah, like especially in rock music, like synth had kind of like
Yeah, it's
died
come and
out.
gone.
Yeah, in like the late 80s. But I think it works really well on this song because it's more subtle. It's not as in your face as say like the Tired of Sex or I Just Threw Out the Love of My Dreams one, or even later on when we talk about Do You Want to Get High on there. But yeah, kind of a nice subtle thing in there.
Just a great intersection of that song Exploder, like spreadsheet syllable thing, and what we were talking about, like in albums like Hurley, where it feels like Rivers had just moved onto this new stage vocally, and the way the words and his melody work together, especially for the chorus, the way the lyrics come out. We got the wind in our sail, like
Yeah,
Darwin
I
on the
love the
Beagle,
way he sings
or
that.
Mandel experimenting with the P. Like that whole movement just flows so naturally.
It does.
and it's just so nice, and it just puts a smile on my face every time.
His vocals are continually like really great. Like continuing from the last album are really great, and like
He has range now.
yeah, exactly.
He has
He
impressive
seems more
range.
willing to like kind of like put his voice in weird places, if that makes sense. Like
Definitely.
the like when in a set, like
Yeah.
that's like he sings it so weird, and you just get the feeling that he wouldn't have done that on mid-period sort of albums.
No, he's working very hard on bringing out new and interesting vocal deliveries for like almost every single verse. That's another thing. Like for almost every single song, he is switching up his tone of voice from verse to chorus to verse, like from section to section,
Yeah.
so consistently.
So, shall we move on?
Let's.
I think it's time.
It's time for the next track. Another, it seems like we've put a lot of the, you might say, the beachy songs or the albumy cuts at the bottom.
Beachy.
Because this is Girl, We Got a Good Thing.
Really, I'm surprised that this one is this low.
It's quite low, but we are right around the middle at this point.
Yeah, that's
basically.
true. What is
It's
this?
it's
song
fourth.
6 or 7?
Yeah, it's seventh.
Yeah. Okay.
I really like this song. I'm very partial to this song. I think it's the most like direct sort of like Beach Boys pastiche, you might say.
Very 60s pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it probably has the catchiest chorus on this album. I think this would have probably done really well as a single if it wanted like airplay. Actually, this sort of was released as a single, even though it wasn't one of like those first 5 ones. I don't know. I have a weird CD of it. It's like a French promo CD of it, which is like really weird because I think there was the Japanese promo CD of Thank God for Girls, which seems like really weird that stuff is still getting like physical like radio promo releases in 2016. But I was shocked when I saw it pop up on eBay for this one, especially because it wasn't one of the first 5 songs released before the album.
The guitars are very jangly. Like
The piano was very there.
Yeah.
yeah. It starts with the chorus, which I find kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's
like a sort of light like drum guitar free version of the chorus, and then they jump into it in the second chorus.
It's hard to talk about the lyrics because they are just so upfront in your face. This is what is happening.
Yeah.
But then again, he's name dropping
I guess
Krishna's Puerto Rico, driving to Ventura on the 101.
Oh,
yeah, I guess you
classic.
could say that if you're reading this as, I was gonna say if you're reading this as a concept album, you can kind of say like this is sort of the like where he's happy, like they're together and like he's just super psyched about it. But it's also like Thank God for Girls is right before this on the album, and that doesn't really make sense necessarily.
No.
I feel like this song would have, like, should have came right after Wind in Our Sails. I feel like
Yeah,
that would flow
That
better.
sequencing kind of makes more sense to me. Although it does, it is.
That is a lot of like bright and happy
Exactly.
stuff right
I
at the
kind of
beginning.
I kind of see these 2 songs as like from like the same vein, like very similar in some ways. Like a poppy, like kind of beachy sound. This is the chorus for this one is more like a pop catchiness, whereas some songs, one we'll talk about later, has I think a more like rock catchy, like something along the lines of like say The Good Life or Why Bother, where it's not just a more stereotypical sounding catchy.
Yeah, like they really only get into the sort of Weezer chunky distorted guitars in that like 10-second bridge part, which
Yeah.
kind of comes out of nowhere. I guess the chorus is kind of like heavy-ish. I really like the guitar solo on this song.
Yeah,
It's like doo-doo-doo.
it's kind of got that interesting bit where like right before the chorus comes in, it kind of takes like sort of like it sounds like it's about to take a darker tone, and then the chorus jumps in. I don't really know how to explain it. I'd have to like hear it again to really
But
put it in.
the bridge is pretty dark.
Yeah,
You scare me like an open window. Let's chalk it up to Stockholm Syndrome. I want to crawl into a hole.
Hey.
And then we're right back to Girl, We Got a Good Thing, which I think, like Jacked Up, is kind of like, not manic, but like all of like the good and bad of like being like codependently falling for someone.
Yeah, I think there was a song on this album that was originally called Codependent, I think.
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
No.
Okay, let me look into this.
Today, we're like, finished work. I'm like, all right, we're doing White Album now. I'm so excited. We're looking through things. There is a 40-minute interview where Rivers and Bell talk and Brian talk about it in depth. And I was like, oh, well, it's too late to listen to that now.
Yeah, Girl, We Got a Good Thing was originally titled Codependent and described relationship as it was getting ugly. Though he found the melody did not combine with the lyrics, and then he chose the title Good Thing and wrote lyrics. and wrote different lyrics.
Oh, okay.
So like they're not. It's not the same song, just retitled. It's like a completely different set of lyrics, but
It's still in there.
It's very interesting. Yeah, like it's a happy song, but I get what you mean. Like you do kind of like feel that like it's like when you're a teenager and like like in like your first relationship and it's
Like infatuation.
yeah, like you're like so into it and that can like almost be like off-putting,
Yeah.
especially if you're Rivers.
Can we move on from whatever this is?
Do you have anything else to say about this song? I really like this song. It's
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting from the worst song, these songs are all fantastic, and that's like the last word for any of these discussions.
yeah. So
I still can't believe it was as low as it was on the list because I think I had it at number 3 or 4 or something.
yeah, the middle. I mean, I know we love to talk about how many points different things got, but there are a number of songs in this album that are in a very similar range. So it's like
Yeah.
it's 7th, but if you changed up the placing a little bit, it could easily be like 3rd or 4th or 5th, you know?
If you changed the placing, it could be a different place.
Okay.
A lot of insight there, Chris.
We're all tired.
Okay, I'm not tired. I'm revved up about Weezer. Not jacked up, but revved up.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next song. Very different song. A song that I think there's a lot to unpack. It is a song called "Do You Wanna
No,
Get
there's
High?"
no way this is this
Oh.
low.
There is.
Where did I rank this for me?
Let's have a look here.
Okay.
There was one person who put it at number 1,
Me.
and one person who put it at number 9. Me.
What?
Wow. Okay.
And one person who put it in the middle.
me.
So let's
Wow.
dig into this. First thing is, this song is about the same relationship that "Oh Girlfriend" is about. The closing track on Green.
Which is so. I felt there was such like this weird pang in my stomach when I heard that and read that and realized like, oh, this song like is about the same period of time that created all of the Green songs. I was like, why weren't all of the Green songs like that good?
I mean,
Well,
like from that thing, they're trying to kind of escape the whole Pinkerton sound, right? Since it wasn't well critically
I
received.
know, but at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, all of those songs just pale in comparison to this one.
I mean,
which is
it's
like
also
looking back at the same situation, and it's like just looking at that actual situation.
I also feel like that looking back on a relationship, basically when
It is very different from being in it.
yeah, because this I think because the relationship was in 2000 to 2001, so basically when Green was being written. So, you know, like
Yeah.
I think that his experience of having that lifestyle is very different from because this is not a positive look at
No,
getting
it's not.
high.
But I'm saying like if Green had more of him being like, I'm doing a lot of drugs right now, guys. Like, I feel like I
That's
would have
true.
liked
It's
it more.
it's really weird to think that like Green was like the era when Rivers was
Had a
like doing
serious drug problem.
had like a drug problem, was a huge asshole to like everyone in his life.
Rivers nowadays really does not seem like someone who would have any sort of problem. He's very,
Yeah.
well,
seems very mild mannered.
he did annotated commentary for this song on
Genius.
Genius.
Yeah, I
one of-
love that.
And one of the things he says is, I have a milligram scale to measure any kind of addictive substance I might be taking. For example, caffeine. I keep track of it all in Google Docs and taper my withdrawals to
Oh my
minimize discomfort.
Gosh, what a
And then someone replied, Mr. Robot, which is very true.
yeah.
Have either of you guys watched Mr. Robot?
I've heard good things.
You should watch it. It's really good. But yeah, basically, like, it's the same idea that, like, the main character will, like,
Is that like
meter out, like, the, like, pills that they take and stuff.
Anyway, I really like that he did the annotations on Genius. I wish more songwriters did that because Genius has kind of emerged as the #1 place to like look at
Lyrics and meaning.
and interpret them. Like people are actively arguing about a bunch of songs like right now, and that's like the place to do it. And it's a real big shock when the first time I looked up these lyrics and there's all this Green and you go like, wait, what is this? And it's
What is
like,
this, the Green album?
I'm like, oh, pretty much. He's talking about it in these annotations. And like in some, he's like, oh, this line comes from this and this line comes from that. And like, I took a road trip to Mexico. He just has comments like, I love Mexico. Hoping to go there for a vacation this Christmas. I'm just worried about getting sick.
Oh, no. Rivers.
Oh, Rivy.
I love the mood that this song pervades, complete with the Pinkerton synths, which is just like, this whole situation is so unhealthy, but because of that, it's so full of these situations and emotions, which are just kind of like so unique to just getting really high all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, musically, and I guess sort of like subject matterly, it's easily like the most Pinkerton song on the album. Like, it starts out with that feedback, which is like very...
Which is cute.
Pardon?
Which
Oh,
is
yeah.
cute.
Yeah, you can even hear them asking to cue the feedback. When I first heard that, I'm just like, wait, are they saying cue the feedback and then it's good to be back? Which kind of made me, it like remind me, or like made me think of like, oh, it's good to be back, like
Pinkertoning?
Yeah, Pinkertoning. Even with like the single artwork for it is really cool too.
It'd be weird.
Yeah, their faces are melting.
Yeah,
Literally.
Oh.
I mean, like, it's got that mono synth in it, like, that's very Pinkerton-esque, using it kind of as a lead. The bass tone is on point. Like, the backing vocals are pretty great, and this, like, the subject matter, very Pinkerton-esque. Mm-hmm. Like, the lead guitar in the choruses, where it's kind of just, like hitting, like, da-na-na-na-na-na, like, very basic thing makes me think of, like, some like the kind of like Pinkerton guitars that are like, I don't know if I'd say like the overdubbed guitars, but it just sounds like it just like hitting like something like really simple almost, and it sounds like cool like that.
You haven't really weighed in on this song, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it in a Pinkerton context, I think I like it a little more. Like, I think it's okay. Like, it's interesting subject matter, like, sort of a darker look at taking drugs and, like, sort of leaning very heavily on, like, the physical, not like, sort of the idea of taking drugs, but, like, crush up a pill, snort it. Like,
It's like the start of addiction from the inside.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
And I feel
a
like
couple being, like, looking at each other, like, you want to get high?
yeah, it's a very, like, mundane almost look at, like, doing drugs, which is interesting. I just don't feel like the song's there, honestly. Like,
Really?
to me, like, the melodies are just not that great. Like it's like like it's sort of all
That's true.
moves around one kind of
We
melodic
clamp
area,
on the pot. Yeah.
which just it just doesn't do that much for me. Like, again, when I think about it as like when I imagine hearing it on Pinkerton, then I'm like, okay, this is actually this is a good song, but it doesn't blow me away. It would not be highly rated for me if it was on a Pinkerton track list.
Really? Huh. What'd you guys think about the bridge on this one though?
I think that's like kind of spills out the rest of the song even more clearly.
Yeah.
Of just like the bridge for LA Girls, where it's just like just complete devotion to one person, and like, you know, from the inside of that person, it's so romantic of being like, oh, like, stop the tape, kill the lights, close the drapes, like, I'm like, I can't ever get tired of you, and like, it lets you be on the inside of that feeling, and also on the outside, which is like, ooh, like, don't be that way about somebody, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
I think that outro is like really good too, with kind of like the backing vocals doing the like just singing,
Sleeping
like,
with Mother Teresa.
yeah. But then with like Rivers kind of like screaming over it. I think that's also very Pinkerton-esque. I think that works really well.
Very Pinkerton-esque guitar song. Really, everything about this.
Yeah,
is
it
so
sounds
good.
like a Pinkerton song
Yeah.
for sure.
Great guitar solo.
Yeah, I was really hoping this would be more like what the album was gonna sound like. So when
With
more
a more
singles,
harder edge.
yeah, when more singles came out, I was like kind of disappointed, which sort of left me with like an album where everyone loved it when it first came out, and I kind of felt disappointed by it, and then it kind of took me a little longer to sink in. Where, as with everyone else, it seemed like a very accessible album. Like from the first listen, people were hooked.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's a very poppy album. Like it makes sense that this album was a mainstream success for them. We will be moving on to this is very interesting.
Oh.
I teased this a little bit before we started recording that this was a very interesting list. And here it is the truth. Because our next songs are Jacked Up.
Oh.
And Summer Elaine and Drunk Dory.
Fuck.
And King of the World.
Oh shit!
That's right. It's a Mexican standoff because it's a three-way tie
Wow.
for third place.
We're already at third place.
Well, because it's fifth, fourth,
Oh, right.
and
Yeah,
third.
okay, all right.
Jeez. Yeah, I was gonna ask if
Holy.
is there gonna be any ties on this album?
And as it turns out, it's the biggest tie of all time. I wanted to save the surprise, so we haven't talked about how it's going to work in terms of ranking.
Should we all kind of like rank it 1, 2, and 3, and then average those out?
Interesting.
I feel like there's a good chance there will still be ties.
That's
in there.
true.
But we could try.
We can do that at the end. So let's just start by talking about the songs. Let's start with, I feel like King of the World is the least interesting one of these three songs. Not that
Yeah, I
it's,
would.
It's a very good, like I think it's on the same quality level, but it's not a very unique song in the way that Summer Elaine and Jacked Up are.
It, like, Do You Want to Get High is a very surface level song. Like, it's good, but, like,
Yeah.
for King of the World, it's basically all there. And there's a lot there, but it is all right there on the page for you to see.
Yeah, I feel like this song is probably out of the three of these songs, I feel like this is kind of closest to the average song on the album.
Yeah, I'd say more just that Jacked Up and Summer Elaine are two really, really, really weird songs.
Yeah, not just on this album, but like
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you showed them to anyone, they'd be like, this is weird.
Especially Jacked Up.
Yeah,
But we'll talk
Jacked Up
about
is just
Jacked
like,
Up.
yeah.
Like, holy. Yeah.
Save it for later in the pod.
We're talking about King of the World first?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we can do that.
I really do love this song. And it's one of those songs on this album that Rivers could only make now at this stage in his life.
Yeah.
And I love that, again, his choice of words lets you feel an emotion, like, from the inside perspective of, like, the young man saying it and, like, the general situation overall, which is, like, he should not be saying this. On this song, it's him expressing this weird mixture of, like, admiration for and anxiety about, like, his wife and their relationship together. And he's describing, like, this distance between them, in part because she is Japanese and from Japan, and just the fact that they grew up in different cultures. Mm-hmm. But, like, all of that is tempered by the fact that he's going, like, hey, look, like, we're married and we love each other. And, you can tell me all your worries and everything. And if I was king of the world, then you wouldn't have to worry about anything. And it's this really great, basically, like, almost a restatement of a marriage vow, all bottled up inside, like, a great, snappy pop song.
Yeah, I think that one line, and it's kind of interesting, like, you wouldn't have to shed a single tear unless you wanted to. Which kind of, like, works as if, like, oh, I would do, like, provide whatever for you. You'd never have to worry, never have to cry. And then kind of at the same time talking about, like, basic, like, sort of human nature where you can't just live your life with, like, one emotion, like, just happiness. Like,
I want to remove all the stress from your life, but I want you to still have the full range of regular human emotion.
yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to give you, like, some, like, unrealistic life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you hear about, like, celebrities, like, starting to do, like, just random, like, regular people stuff, or, like, ridiculously rich people who never have to lift a finger again for the rest of their life, still kind of doing, like, regular people stuff to, like, like, when you're, like, not in school or like not working for a period, you start to feel like you think it's like gonna be great. I have all this free time, and then it's like one day in or like 2 days in, you're just like, oh my goodness, I need shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, the same day, it's like, instead of you would have, it's like, you don't have to lift a finger unless you want to.
Yeah.
And the fact that the song starts with this super specific thing, you walk by the magazine sitting on the rack at the CVS, and Rivers notices how Kyoko is bothered by like this tabloid magazine fodder, all this news stuff of like, oh, I mean, 300 people dying in an airplane crash would be pretty upsetting even now.
Yeah, I mean, that's also like kind of like contrasting it, like talking about like sort of this state of like Western culture, talking about like the cover of a magazine. Oh, what's the important stuff? There's a sad movie star divorce, and then 300 people died in an airplane wreck. Like they're on the same level.
Yeah. Well, also just the fact that noticing that someone is upset by things that you are not upset by, and most people around you are not upset by it.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of like the first verse is talking about her in America, whereas the second verse is more talking about her like growing up in Japan?
Oh, definitely.
That's a good read.
And Kyoko also has annotations on Genius, which I think is really great.
That's cool.
So, and his one line is, "Dad hit you on the hand just for holding your chopsticks wrong." She pops in and goes, like, I don't think he actually did that, but like he was making the song, so whatever.
Yeah.
Then your mom locked you in a shed, and Uncle Sam dropped an atom bomb.
One of my
that song is, that line becomes way crazier when you realize that he's actually talking about a person who is Japanese.
And she's talking about the intergenerational trauma of like growing up in Japan, and she has been to both of those sites.
Yeah, like you're living in the shadow of something like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite lines on this album. I don't know why. It just sounds like so cool.
Well, because like it's an exploration of like you see him step by step realize things his wife is going through that he wasn't aware of before.
Yeah.
And him making steps to cross the distance of like things that were going on before that he didn't realize.
Yeah.
Which is just great because I can't think of any other song by anyone that is like about that kind of like everyday relationship stuff. That is so, I don't know, like unique and interesting.
I think like kind of the imagery of the atomic bomb for some reason always has like captivated me. I think it's so interesting. It makes me think of like New Mexico, Arizona, like 50s like Cold War era stuff. I know they're specifically referencing like World War II, but kind of the atomic bomb always seems super interesting to me, much more than like a nuke. Whereas I don't think that seems as like interesting, I guess is the word I'm going for on all of this stuff.
Yeah, that's something interesting about this song is that like it kind of alternates between like a massive scale, like a global scale, and also this very, very minute scale. Like, I mean, it's talking like the song is called King of the World. It's literally talking about like having control over everything in the world. And it also talks about like an atom bomb and like 300 people. Like it has like that like very broad scale, but then it's also about like a person in a grocery store walking by magazines, which I think is like sort of an interesting.
Yeah, which is all, it's all that is like cut to so well in the bridge. We are the small fish, we swim together, no Prozac or Valium, which Chaz and I both thought was no bros at the valley.
Yeah, I've read other places online where people have been like, oh, that's weird. I always thought that line was no bros at the valley, which kind of makes sense because like another like California like reference sort of.
But anyway, he's going, we're two small fish, we swim together, we'll face the tsunamis together. That is such a simple way. Like in those 3 lines, it's like we can't fix the world's problems, but we have each other, and like we'll always be together.
Yeah,
it's like kind of also sort of like talking about like no Prozac or Valiums, like kind of saying like, oh, like it's not going to be like a past relationship where we're kind of like talking about like, and do you want to get high? Like
this song does follow. Do you want to get high?
It's true. Kind of like it talks about like sort of how this is like a different relationship, how they like get through things together as opposed to like kind of like just like taking like Valiums and just like zoning out.
Yeah, like
And
sort of
it's-
hiding the truth.
It is sandwiched between repetitions of the chorus where he's going, if I was king of the world, which is like this ridiculous statement. And one of those ridiculous statements is we could ride a Greyhound all the way to the Galapagos, which sounds great in a song, and is also great because you can't do that.
Depending where you leave from, you probably could.
Well, the Galapagos are islands, right?
If you leave from a different part on the Galapagos Island.
Oh, that was worse than Chris using the open parentheses thing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Anyway, he's going, if I was king of the world, then we would do this and that. You wouldn't have to shed a single tear.
Although maybe
and then
you
it
don't
cuts
even
to,
have
we are...
Greyhound in the Galapagos.
Play with your iPad, honey.
Go back to bed, sweetie. Everything will be all right in the end.
Ooh.
Yeah,
pull.
he goes, if I was king of the world, and then cuts right, all the music dissolves away, and it's just the guitar doing that kind of slow, lazy bit. He's like, we are the small fish, but we'll face the tsunamis together. And then it jumps right back into that big, like, if I was king of the world, and the chorus is so big and so slammy.
Yeah, and it's also cool that, like, it's like, he's talking about being king of the world, but, like, to him, king of the world is just, like, power to stop her pain.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like he's not
It's
being
so
like,
sweet.
if I was king of the world, I'd kill Hitler.
He's already dead.
I know. You know what I mean. But yeah, like, it, I know that was a bad example, but it was the only thing I could think of.
He's already dead.
He's gone.
Like
But
one
yeah,
of those
like-
things where it's like, oh, let's like convict Hitler of shit, even though it doesn't matter at all, just kind of for like the image of it. It reminds me of like that Life of Brian bit where it's like, what? You can't have a baby. You're a man. No, but we should fight for men's rights to have a child.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know. Cut it out.
Keep it in. Double it. But yeah, like that I think is sort of the crux of this sort of idea that, like, the combination between, like, the massive scale but also the intimacy, which is cool. Anyways, we talked a long time about that song.
Yeah,
It's a
longer
great
than I
song.
thought we would. We didn't really even touch on like the
music.
musical
Yeah,
aspects of it. Like it's got some of that great synth that they've
It
been
starts
using.
with that weird wah version
Yeah.
of the riff, and then the rest of it.
Yeah,
Cuts
it's
in.
got the kind of somewhat like quirkier drums, which is a common
I
theme.
really like
throughout
the
song.
verses.
Yeah.
Like, musically.
Yeah, the verses are really like very wheezy, and some wheezing in there.
Yeah.
They've got
I guess structurally it's pretty similar to Do You Want to Get High?
yeah, it's got some
Which
like
is when the guitars, cut in and out.
yeah, it's got some great like layered vocals during the chorus. I really like that like the transition from the weird intro bit into like the actual intro, but that like guitar
Yeah.
like pick slide
Slide.
down. I think that's a very neato
Great
thing.
transition. Yeah.
Speaking of transitions, this is one. Let's talk about Summer Elaine and Drunk
Dory.
That. Yeah, cool song.
Yeah.
What do we think about this? So basically, Rivers, in that Song Splitter podcast, he talked about how this song is, at least the title, is about, it's these two moms that he heard, I believe his kid's school.
I thought it was like some kind of like party thing like that was involved with parents from the kid's school or something.
Yeah, a party for his daughter's last day of school.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, it's the idea is that the teacher, whose name is Elaine, like it's like, oh, there's teacher Elaine, and then there's Summer Elaine. It's like Summer Elaine is like more like fun and like does crazy stuff, and so it's
okay.
like, and then like there's this other woman. I think a parent is like, yeah, like my husband like says that too. It's like there's Dory, and then there's Drunk Dory,
Yeah.
which I just think is really great.
Yeah, I really liked
Like
that.
I just like it as a concept.
Yeah, that
And it
song
sounds really
Exploder one was great.
That's most of the song. It sounds really cool. Which
Yeah.
is like, I feel like there is no through line. There's no story. It's really just like the flow of the words
Yeah,
itself.
and this is kind of the song I was talking about when we were talking about Girl, We Got a Good Thing, when I said like, oh, Girl, We Got a Good Thing has like a really poppy, catchy chorus, whereas this one's kind of the song that's the more like rock catchy chorus.
Summer Elaine and Drunk Dory.
Where it's like seems like less of a like stereotypical pop, like catchy, like melody, even though I think it's equally as catchy.
So the same old themes of codependence. I suck
Yeah.
at getting off the phone.
Yeah.
Boy in the bubble saying I love you. I should have written her a note.
Yeah.
You know, just general like infatuation
Boy in the Bubble just
basi-
reminds me of that Seinfeld episode.
with the boy in the bubble.
I'm sorry, it's the moops. I reference that all the time and no one ever gets it.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite ones.
It's a really good one.
It's a misprint.
I'm sorry, that's what the card says. Yeah, I mean, like, just generally speaking, lyric. Do you know that episode, Tyler?
I've seen it. I don't remember what Moops is.
He's so it's like he's playing. It's like the idea is like George is visiting this kid in the hospital.
No, it was like it was at their house.
Yeah,
but
I know he's living in his parents' house.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
He's got like the whole
like
section.
the-
Yeah,
Bobble
so
Boy?
they play Trivial Pursuit together, and like the kid like always beats him and like is an asshole about it.
And you never see him, right? Like just like
No, you
his
see the
hands. All right. Okay.
I think you do, right?
I don't think they ever really like show his face.
Really?
I don't know.
I
Now
don't
I'm
remember.
trying
I
to
haven't
think.
watched it for a while.
Yeah.
But anyways, so there's a clue, and the answer is the Moors. But the card like it's a misprint of the Trivial Pursuit card, and it says the Moops.
Yeah.
And so like George just gets this giant shit-eating grin on his face, like, I'm sorry, it's the Moops.
The kid's getting so upset, and it eventually sends him like to the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a good app.
Seinfeld is a good show.
Hey, pretty funny. But yeah, basically, lyrically, this song is just sort of like, yeah, I lost this girl and I'm sort of like still attached to her and I can't really let her go. Which I don't know. I'm trying to think about the whole concept album idea, because you got Girl, We Got a Good Thing, Do You Want to Get High, King of the World, and then Summer Lane and Drunk Doors. So I guess like between King of the World and Summer Lane is when like things kind of start to fall apart, I guess.
Well, it's weird because not Girl, We Got a Good Thing. King of the World and Do You Want to Get High have two separate, specific, real life, like, whoop, that's 2000, 2001, that girlfriend, and this is Kyoko,
Yeah.
modern day.
My wife.
Yes.
I wonder how
And
like Kyoko feels about like him writing all these songs about like other girls and other relationships.
I know, because like all of her annotations on King of the World are like they were both saying like we are both okay with being like this kind of public honesty and the exchange of
Yeah.
that part. But yeah, that whole like he got Tinder and was like meeting up with people for like lyrical inspiration.
Yeah.
And there was this
I'm
one
sure
interview.
that's what it was for.
Well, there's this one interview
Also
where this guy's
dickical
like
inspiration.
trying to get to the bottom of it, and the interviewer goes, "Tell me about Tinder. That has to be a weird experience, given that your motives were different from those of other people using the app." Rivers goes, "Who knows about motives? It's all so complicated. I'm certainly still interested in girls in a way that other guys are." I'm like,
Odd.
I feel like the interviewer is like trying to dance around the question. He's like, "But they're looking for a date." And Rivers goes, "Nothing wrong with a date."
What the?
The interviewer goes, You're saying, define a date." Rivers goes, "Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting together with people and hanging out, having experiences. If I'm just sitting at home in my room, I run out of things to write about." And then he finally says, "And that fit into the structure of your life as a married guy, a father, a well-known person?" And Rivers just goes, "I like it best when I'm able to meet people who don't know who I am, or that somehow have a talent for treating me like they would anybody else."
Whoa.
Yeah.
So he went on.
So were you fucking these girls?
Hey, were you fucking these girls? Those Muppets gonna fuck Khaleesi? Take that out. That's a comedy bang. That's a comedy bang bang reference.
I didn't get it, but it was so funny.
I don't even remember what the original reference is, but just the idea of in like a Chris Tucker voice, are those Muppets gonna fuck Khaleesi is a thing. Yeah, that's weird.
Okay, the interviewer goes, "Were those people easy to find? Those people who would treat you like any regular guy so you could just have regular conversations?" Rivers, "It was very easy to find people who didn't know me, but it was very hard to find people who would match me."
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I mean, yeah, this song, like,
What song are we talking about?
Summer Lane and Drunk Dory.
Shit, like
This song is like very like lyrically like I said, like this is the most cut and paste song. Like every line it feels like is like
She
talking
swam
about
away
something
and
else.
flexed her mermaid tail. She was
Yeah.
out too deep when lightning struck the bay. If she's a mermaid, mermaids don't go out too deep. And
there's
when
no
lightning
such
strikes,
thing.
wouldn't she want to just be underwater? Wouldn't she be fine?
I don't know about that.
Good
How
witch
does
or bad?
mermaid physiology work?
What does every lightning strike electrocute all fish in the ocean?
Yeah, that's why they have such short lifespans.
An egg and fish eggs are made of rubber, so they get protected.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways.
I feel like if we can really want this album to be a concept album, we can take out Do You Want to Get High and King of the World or move them to a different section. Then Girl, We Got a Good Thing, Summer Lane and Drunk Dory. Summer Lane and Drunk Dory becomes kind of the crux, I would say, of it, where it's like,
but it's really just like if it is a concept album with like that, it's just like, oh, like first half we're together and I'm happy. Second half we're not
not,
together and
yeah.
I'm sad. Like
Wow.
hey, that's a story.
Real deep
guess.
emotions and
some concept.
yeah.
A love story.
Okay, like the charm of this album is not in like.
No, yeah. That's what I'm saying like it
I'm
just
saying
doesn't
even
make
in this
sense as a
song,
concept
Good Witch or
album.
Bad Witch, God is a Woman. I wish I hadn't played the prude. The line I wish I hadn't played the prude has someone, I'm not too sure who, doing a Matt Sharp style early Weezer falsetto
Yeah.
right over it. Very great. She touched my ankle. Paranoid Android. I felt it
Radiohead
in my
reference.
Yeah.
molecules. Great reference. Paints a great picture of like someone touching your ankle and like
Paranoid Android is a great descriptor
Also,
for Rivers
have you
Cuomo.
guys
Yes,
yeah. heard that bit like when he says she touched my ankle? You can hear like Brian in the background going, "Ooh."
No.
Well, my favorite one is Sweet Piano Melodies Play. Someone is going, doo, 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 doo. I love that one. It makes me laugh every single time.
I like
Good.
that. But yeah, cool core. I love the way he sings the title.
It's just endlessly catchy.
Yeah,
It's just really good.
I like the second verse where they've kind of got the Brian backing vocal, hardly even like a backing vocal, just like literally doubled with
Yeah.
Rivers vocals, almost like Matt Sharp and Rivers and Say It Ain't So, and like the first verse where like
Yeah.
Matt is singing as much as Rivers.
Yeah,
is.
just saying the same thing in falsetto.
Yeah. Although Brian isn't really singing it in falsetto here.
Yeah.
I like the key change,
Yeah.
which is mostly imprinted in my head by you, Chris, singing it. Because you
Okay.
sing it all the time. You just go, Summer, Lena, Drunk Dory. Summer.
Well, it's because the key change is the same as the harmony on
That's true,
on the
yeah,
regular
right.
chorus, and so I just
And
sing
you
that.
do like your harmonies.
I just sing the high part all the time, and so it sounds like the key change.
You do like your harmonies.
Well, let's move
Anyway.
on.
Great. Honestly, it's still
Really
just
great
great,
song.
enjoyable. It doesn't have to be about anything in my mind.
No, oh no, like that's what I'm saying is like, in spite, like it's there's not much to talk about because it's just like a good song
Yeah.
with good like I'm like I like the like I don't think I'm not like these lyrics suck. I'm just like they're not it's not very cohesive.
Yeah. It's an album full of why bothers. Like they all just like whoop, here we are, whoop, here's our thing, whoop, we're done,
Interesting.
on to the next
Yeah.
one.
Nice. Let's finish out this trifecta with a little song I like to call Jacked Up.
I love how good this song is. And then on the deluxe edition with that like remix of it, it's so
I've
bad.
never heard that, and I don't plan to.
it's so
You're gonna.
That's true, I will at some point.
The deluxe edition of this album is so good, other than that.
I know you love Fake Smiles and Nervous Laughs, but we'll talk about that on our B-sides
Friend of a friend,
episode.
friend of a friend.
etc.
I love the USA.
Which so many people hate, but you know what? We'll save it for another
We'll save
pod.
it for the deluxe edition.
The deluxe podition. So yeah, this song, very weird song. Piano song.
One of the weirdest
Yeah.
songs Weezer has ever done.
Crazy chorus. Take your pick. What do you want to talk? I'll talk about this song. I
Yeah,
had this song
yeah.
ranked number 2 on my list.
Oh.
I love this song.
Me too.
It's just, it's so catchy.
Gothic.
Like
Yeah.
the chorus is like people. The thing I've heard it from a lot of different places, I feel like, is like a really great song is when your verse is a chorus, and then your chorus is like an even better chorus.
Oh.
And like I just love the melody line on the verse. Like it's and like I was just talking about how I didn't like Do You Want to Get High because it's kind of like melodically wrote, but this is a melodically wrote verse for the most part. But I don't know. It's
because he's saving that intense, like, throat crackingly, like, cry for the chorus.
It's so crazy. It's so like when he starts the chorus, it's just like
It's so dark, so sad. Over top of the piano doing what on its own is a very like happy like dum ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
Da.
I think I wouldn't use the word happy. It's more like, I don't know. It's kind of quirky. I kind of
Yeah.
see. This song, it's
Very
a pretty
unconventional, yeah.
quirky song. So it's got more of those like drums, like the piano, like falsetto. Lots of stuff.
Lyrics,
Yeah,
name dropping aliens, galaxies,
yeah, the one
the Kalahari Desert.
Wait, what? What alien was he named?
Come, you beautiful alien, touch me with your light.
Oh, just
Talking about the girl.
yeah. I don't know why I have this shit-eating grin on my face.
I
don't know why either.
Just thinking about it now, that what this kind of reminds me of is Regina Spektor. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Regina Spektor. She's like an indie pop artist, very piano based.
Very like Baroque.
Yeah,
style.
Baroque, idiosyncratic, lots of very high like falsetto singing.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that at all.
I didn't
but
either until just now.
I'm not
But yeah,
familiar with her.
And just like great, like I think just like the great thing about this song, other than the vocal, which I think is like one of his best vocal performances, hands down,
ever, yeah.
is just like the melodies are just really good. Like you just want to listen to them and you want to like sing them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just like I'm just like sitting here looking at the lyrics. I'm like I just want to like just like thinking about it. Like I'm just like hearing it in my head. I'm like I want to sing this song. It's so good. Like yeah, I just
like the gothic dramaticness of like, oh, why do my flowers always die? Why do they die?
Yeah, it's so like melodramatic and overwrought, but in like a great way.
And such a great lead into Endless Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Sure.
This
Plus,
album's really
like,
good.
The bridge on this song.
Sleep
Yeah.
together, sleep forever, sleep together, forever
Minus
-1.
That's such a good bridge. Like, and just like the melody of it, it really reminds me a lot of like Weekend Woman or QB Blitz off of Pacific Daydream, which
Save it for the pod.
yeah.
And this bridge probably, I would say, has the best drumming as a function of the bridge. Because Pat, like, starts with the,
This album, like the drums really come forward as their own instrument and like something to listen to, and not just kind of like, oh, something to like carry the song, like, or to like carry the beat, right?
Yeah, these, especially on Jacked Up, they sound massive. There's tons of reverb on them. Sounds super, like, almost like John Bonham, Led Zeppelin-y. Especially on this one, because, like, there's that part where all the vocal, everything cuts out, and, like, the drums, like, do this big, like, basically it goes across the drums to come back in. It just sounds so big and massive, and it's so good. And, like, lyrically, this is, like, the codependency of the album at its most in your face, most heartbreakingly.
Yeah, this is like the most heartbroken song of the album for sure. Like you think of like Summer Lane and Drunk Dory and LA Girls, which are the two songs that precede this. Like they're sad.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, exactly. Like
And this is just like,
and like there's an element of like frustration in there, kind of, and like sort of like, and like blaming himself to a certain extent. But this is like a next level. Like I'm so sad and like heartbroken. Mm-hmm. Really good song.
It resonates with me personally. I don't want
Makes
to get
me-
more than that, but
Makes me feel emotions.
yeah. TF when no GF.
A classic.
Truly.
When the feel's so surreal, you take out your steel.
Okay. So we've discussed these three
Oh,
great
gee,
songs.
I forgot we had to vote.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's a three-way trolley.
Oh dear.
The trolley kind of goes in a loop, and you have two levers. I don't want to waste too much time thinking about how the mechanics of that would work, but
I don't either.
it's following a circuit, and you got to decide how it's going to end. So, are we going to do the proposed method of ranking them 1, 2, 3, and then tallying it, sort of a mini version of our traditional album ranking method?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take that vote now. We'll be right back with In the Garage.
Three fucking
We're-
songs. You already
yeah.
have them in the list.
All right, we're
Second
rolling
off
now.
my head. Welcome back to In the Garage. That was about a 10-second break while we wrote down 3 songs. So I really wish we could all say it simultaneously, but that makes no sense. So I'll start with you, Tyler. How did you rank these songs from top to bottom, highest
Top.
ranking to lowest ranking?
Jacked Up, King of the World, Summer Lane, and Drunk Dory.
Okay.
And I have to take away those points just because, as lovable as Summer Lane and Drunk Dory is, it's just a little bit too all over the place.
That's fair. That's very fair. Chaz, where do you land on this?
Do you want me to start at number 1? I was
Start
not-
at your highest ranked song.
Summer Lane and Drunk Dory.
Oh,
I have that as my number 2 song on this album. This is a tough one. These two I really struggled with, like in my regular listing, but as a song that's like a poppy, catchy song that like I like to listen to and like jam out to, I gotta put King of the World as second and Jacked Up as third.
Oh
even
my
though
goodness.
it pains me so much to do that.
So we all have different rankings. I have Jacked Up first, then Summer Lane, then King of the World. So the final tally.
it's a three-way tie.
I mean, let's not rule it out. No, it's not. It's not
I'm
a
gonna
three-way
die
tie.
if that's the
So
answer.
3,
Does it
5. Okay, no, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, does it
so,
go?
So, our ranking from low to high now, from bottom to top, since that's how we rank our albums, is King of the World, Summer Lane and Drunk Dory, and Jacked Up,
I can live with that.
which is the same as my listing. Just saying.
It's because Tyler and I's were
Weird brag.
Tyler and mine were just like inverted of each
yeah.
other. So it was literally just your
We
listing
cancel
left.
each other out.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with
Yeah,
that
exactly.
too. I think these are
I
all
would
like
have been
very
fine. Exactly.
solid
I would have been
songs.
fine with any direction.
What's the
that
point of
that
ranking
ended
these
up.
songs? I'm fine with any order they might.
No, like I think there would have been a huge upset if somehow King of the World ended up as number 1.
That's true. Or number
I
3.
wouldn't
for
be
that
that
matter.
upset. If you hit shuffle on all of the songs, I'd like look at that list and be like, makes sense.
That could be a very viable ranking.
I mean, yeah, King of the World was the one song that no one had and at their top. So,
Yeah.
it's reasonable.
There you go.
But
Fascinating discussion of statistics just now.
we're all finished with that. That was a great discussion that we had, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Let's move on. So, thanks to that, we're at number 2 now.
Oh, perfect.
We're just doing a little jump. And it is a little track by the name of Thank God for Girls.
Oh, big tune.
Big song.
Big in every way.
Tyler,
I do.
You have this as your number 1 song. Tell us about that, because Chaz and I both have it around the middle,
Yeah.
and then you having it so high kind of bumped it into its place,
Okay.
which I'm okay with.
Yeah, so am I.
Like I said, I have a soft spot for King of the World because it's one of those songs that only like a 40-year-old man could write. And I find it super interesting when, songwriters stop ignoring the fact that they're old and start embracing it and like the unique perspectives that come from that. And Thank God for Girls, I think, is a great balance of like he's writing about these 20-year-old feelings when he's 40 years old. I don't see like 45 or whatever at this point. And I just I can't believe that this is a song a band made on their 10th album after 20 years. The fact that this band went and made some absolutely awful music, and came back and did
Subjectively.
like looking at it like he's almost rapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the chorus especially.
And like it's just this big bombastic like crazy insane instrumental that he's rapping over, and he's a 40-year-old white man, and he's basically rapping about feeling inferior to other guys, and it all comes together in this song that one kicks ass and sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And like every single time I hear it, like it sounds evil. Like the guitars in the chorus sound absolutely like nasty every single time.
Yeah, this is another one that really makes like big use of like the quirky drums, the piano, and oddly enough, like an organ.
It really leans quite a bit into that whole religious part of it.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. It kind of has a very churchy vibe to it. 2 full videos. I mean, the first one that came out was kind of a lyric video, sort of, but like
Is that the one with the guy in the pie and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The evil Dr. Cannoli.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this song are I like it as a concept a lot more than I care for it as a song. Does that make sense? Like, I think it's a very cool song, especially like, it's especially a cool Weezer song. It's like, 'cause like, I mean, like, back in the 90s and kind of like carried on through today, like, Weezer is the band for like disenfranchised white guys or like white teenagers and 20-somethings.
It's
Like,
the band for us.
yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, to a
Yeah,
certain degree,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like people who feel sort of like,
Frustrated, uncool.
yeah, can't get girls, blah, blah, blah. And then, so like, that's when, like, when this song came out, I was like, are they being ironic? Because, like,
That's true.
they have such a weird history with like masculinity and relationships with women and that whole thing that like it's sort of like it's such a weird song for them to make specifically. It's a weird song for any band to make and release as like a big single.
Yeah, it's so just
It's
weird.
so weird.
And
But-
Rivers said, I read this one interview where he said the song came out, and then a lot of women were like, this is like not a great portrayal of like the relations between men and women. And he went, oh, like, just like that letter he came out with before Pinkerton, it's like, oh, this is me pulling out some very ugly parts of me, and this is my own process. I'm not endorsing any way people should act.
Right.
He basically
yeah.
said that same thing again, like I'm digging up like very old, obviously, like feelings of inferiority and struggles with masculinity.
Yeah,
He
it,
literally like name drops testosterone.
yeah. It at the end of the day, it is a song about like toxic masculinity and like
Yeah.
and portraying the world as like a sort of like where your
Wild,
value
crazy fight.
yeah, where like everyone like you're fighting for a mate and your value is based on like how many people are like like if you have like the hottest mate.
Yeah. I almost feel like if this song came out in 2018, he would have like literally said soy boys in it at some point.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I mean like it's also like a very like relevant song. It feels like for 2016 and like
Yeah.
going on through today.
Yeah, I mean, we're like 2 years after it.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like
We're not
it's
far away.
aged
Well, like he
that
does.
much.
He said there's a like a bit of a backlash to that. It's like that chorus seems pretty sarcastic. Like, yeah, thank God for girls. But and he was like, he said, if I'd known there people were going to react that way, then I would have tweaked the wording of it. Which I think the wording of it affects the tone of it a lot. And he said like, oh, if I'd known people were going
Is
to
it
react.
supposed to be sarcastic? I never got
I
that.
struggle with the tone a lot too. Actually.
Yeah, it's so hard to unpack. Like
just listen. I'm gonna recite the first verse.
It almost
and, like,
it almost seems though like kind of like a girls can't live with them, can't live without them sort of thing.
which that statement in it. Like, how do you parse that kind of statement?
Yeah.
yeah.
The girl in the pastry shop with the net in her hair is making cannoli for you to take on your hiking trip in the woods with your bros that you've known since second grade. And you may encounter dragons or ruffians and be called upon to employ your testosterone in a battle for supremacy and access to females glued to the TV And even if you are victorious, you may receive many cuts, bruises, and scrapes, and you will require band-aids and antiseptic ointments and tender loving kisses on your stab wounds. And when you come home, she will be there waiting for you with a fire in her eyes and a big fat cannoli to shove in your mouth. And that's why you thank God for girls. Like, oh, like,
What?
I wish I'd written that because it's so weird. And
There's a lot of really weird lines in
there's
this song.
so
and
much
I
going on
fucking
in
love
this.
it.
Yeah,
Like, it's just like this big spiky ball of Weezer weirdness.
yeah, it's very like it's hard to like get a grasp on it. It seems like,
She's so big, she's so strong, she's so energetic in her sweaty overalls.
not gonna lie, hot lyric.
You guys know what the hottest lyric in this is, though?
What?
Ooh,
a big fat cannoli to shove in
yeah.
your mouth?
Oh.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Big fat cannoli to shove in your
Well, like it's a dick, right? He's saying a big fat dick to shove in your mouth.
But
I didn't.
she's waiting with it for you.
Yeah, but it's like so it's
She's gonna shove her dick in your mouth?
But yeah, because it's like oh, like she's a woman and she's waiting
feminine
at
penis.
home, and like when you get home, like she wants to have like all she wants to do is like have sex with you, blah blah blah. But
Really?
then it's like that's what I feel. That's what I
Oh,
feel.
yeah,
Like.
maybe. Like, she's
'Cause
waiting.
it's like
there.
oh, like I'm going out and being brave in the woods, and then when I come home, like you're gonna like heal me up and then fuck me. But it's like you're gonna fuck me, but in the way of like you're going to fuck me. Like I feel like that is like that's
Yeah.
my read on it. I don't know.
There's a lot of weird power dynamics in this.
Yeah.
Exactly, like
almost-
it kind of inverts that idea of like
No, you know what the sexiest line of the song is?
yeah.
I'm like an Indian fakir trying to meditate on a bed of nails with my pants pulled down.
Oh.
Oh, that's not what I was going to say, but okay. No, the kind of talks about like fighting dragons and ruffians in the wood, and then sort of like
That's what you find hot?
no,
The
fuck
dragons?
you. Go kill yourself. We're not talking about that anymore.
Oh, come on.
Go commit, die.
Oh.
Go commit, not alive. I'm doing some Roblox.
I'll just
I
wait for us
gotcha.
to cycle through this.
Yeah.
No jokes.
No, but they kind of talk about like fighting like dragons and ruffians, and then they kind of like right after that, he talks about like for access to females, like almost comparing it to like
to the TV. What does that mean?
yeah. I don't really get that one.
In a battle for supremacy and access to females glued to the TV.
Really? That always stuck with me because it's like, oh, like all these guys are fighting for access to women who are not focused on them at all.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
no,
to me,
it's
like to me, glued to the TV just has like a kind of negative connotation of just like
Yeah.
staring vacantly.
yeah.
I mean, it could be, but like the takeaway is like,
That's what I just mean like in terms of like I feel like you can read it so many different ways.
Yeah, and then he kind of talks about like even if you are victorious in getting like the girl like with like fighting the dragons or whatever, you'll still have like bruises and scrapes and all that stuff.
stab wounds.
Stab wounds. Yeah, kind of like literally where even like no relationship is perfectly like good, right? There's still
Yeah.
like pain in there and like betrayal on some level and like all that sort of stuff.
No,
No.
no, I'm agreeing. Moving on. I was waiting to talk about my thing. No, like what you said, toxic masculinity, and that is on my mind. And I love how he kind of paints this picture of guys defining themselves solely and how successful they are with girls, which I think has some relevancy in our modern culture. Verse 2 is like, he fucked those girls on Tinder. I'm so glad I got a girl to think of, even though she isn't mine. It's like, I don't know what to make of these lines. I carved her name into all the trees, sang a song down on one knee, looking at the underwear page of the Sears catalog.
That's my
Like
favorite
when I was 14.
lyric in this song.
It's the most Rivers line ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he
It's so relatable.
in his annotation he says that I'm so glad I got a girl to think of even though she isn't mine. He wrote in 1997.
Huh.
Which is interesting. So like definitely like you said, like he's going for like a younger.
He's like regressing to
Yeah.
that Pinkerton like.
But what does it all mean? That
I mean,
meeting
like-
up in real life would cause the illusion to. That's sort of like the idea of like idealizing
Well, it's a girl that he met on Tinder.
Yeah, potentially.
And it's the illusion to shatter either that she's this hot and interesting girl, and also like, oh, once he meets up in real life, it's like, oh, I'm a rock star, and you meet me. It's like,
Yeah, I think
dude's
Oh, that's-
47
I
years
read
old.
it that way.
I was reading it almost maybe the more like basic way was I guess now that you've talked about like how the whole like Tinder thing and like people not knowing that he's famous, but I kind of read it as like he has this like ideal like image of a girl in his head, and then like meeting up in real life would
Very much, I don't know, like,
I guess
when we're
when
all
you-
16 and texting each other, like, you remember, like, a girl texted you and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I am texting a girl. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe more so with like the context of the first verse where it's talking about like masculinity and stuff where maybe he can like front like that on Tinder or something, and then meeting up in real life he can't meet up to the expectations that he's kind of given people of himself.
Either way, like, the emotional content of this part of the song is just that, like, digging into that subject of toxic masculinity is bringing up so much anxiety, so many childhood, like, sexually formative experiences.
Yeah.
Sears catalog.
Yeah, this is definitely like a very like sexually immature song, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. And really, that's kind of it. It's just digging up all these feelings and being like, now what?
Let's talk about the end of this song, which I also find very interesting, both musically and lyrically.
I am
musically,
mad I did not write this.
Yeah.
musically, it's so weird that it like the ending of a song is a bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's no last chorus.
Yeah, kind of when we were like taking notes on this, I was writing that down, and like I wrote down bridge, then I realized, oh yeah, there's no like last chorus. So
More
I
of
thought
an
it was the
outro or something.
or the
It's hot, yeah.
I don't know. He's creatively so out there, and I still can't believe that. Like, when you think about it, it is so weird, but the perfect ending to a song called Thank God for Girls is like him recounting this weird, bastardized version of how God created woman.
yeah.
And also like going back to the idea of in Summerlin Drunk Dory where he says God is a woman, and so that also like very much changes the read. That God is a woman who is like doing this to him.
See, I like that whole Summer Lane and Drunk Dory thing. Like, to me, that just feels like, oh, let's just throw together a bunch of shit. I know we kind of already talked about the song, but like, I can't really read too much into other songs on this album based off Summer Lane and Drunk Dory's lyrics, except for maybe like the bridge of it.
Well, man, I'm just so actively jealous. God took a rib from Adam, ground it up in a centrifuge machine, mixed it with cardamom and cloves, microwaved it on the popcorn setting. Well, Adam was like, "Ooh, that really hurts." Like, I am just so mad that I did not write that,
Tundra.
because
Yeah, like I guess the idea here is that like just the mere act of women being created made this guy mad.
I mean,
Because the idea is that like God took a rib for like that's describing like the creation of woman in the biblical ideal. So, but then like
I think he took a bit of creative license.
to a certain degree, I suppose.
Depends which translation of the
Yeah.
Bible you have.
I started
the-
lighting minor forest fires.
But yeah, like it's like the idea is like, oh, like he makes a woman, and Adam's response is like, hey, that hurt, so I'm gonna go like fuck up the world.
And then God says, "I'm going to smite you with loneliness." And just that Adam weeps and wails, tears out his hair, falls on his knees, looks to the sky, and says, "Thank God."
What does that mean?
It's no. I feel like that is just a summation of like the agony and the ecstasy that men go through over women.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
kind
women
of the
can't
whole-
live with them, can't live without them.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
But overall, it's thank
I was
God.
like, what? When would? I can't imagine any other singer ever using the word echinacea.
Yeah.
Like the clouds in the sky. Like, I'm just so impressed with his word choice here.
Yeah.
And that it fits in the song. He's not just like, he's, I don't know.
I really like the way he says trying to pollinate the echinacea.
I'm getting tired. It is
Well-
pushing midnight.
I have good news for you, because we're at the last song.
Oh
Hey,
shit, we still have
hey.
one more.
Hey, 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 hey.
It's
hey.
Endless Bummer. I'm so glad this is number one. It was my number one.
My number 2.
Chaz's number 3. Everyone was very happy with this song, and so I'm happy that it's number one.
I am.
This is such a great song.
It's so good.
It's such a great last song on an album. To me, this obviously the whole album is a beach album.
This is like strumming a acoustic in front of a fire on the beach.
yeah.
But what this really makes me think of is in a weird way, kind of, but like Best Coast, who we talked about on the last episode because Bethany Cosentino was on Go Away. But yeah, this is a great song. I'm very happy it's at the top of our list here. But yeah, it's just what you want the end of a beach album to be, because it can be. It's about the end of the summer. It's also kind of about the end of the day. You're at the beach all day, and now at some point you want to go home. And then it's all about the idea of wanting the summer to end. It's just such a cool song. It's great melodically, has awesome harmonies. There's no chorus because the whole thing is kind of a chorus.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good. What do you guys think about this song?
There's a lot of great lyrics on this.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite Weezer lines ever.
Not all 19-year-olds are cool. Is really just
Yeah.
it just sums
She was
it all
too
up.
fast for me. I count my steps because I'm OCD.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
the way he sings it, I
'cause
count my steps because I'm OCD.
Oh, and I love the line, arguably the saddest part of the album where, he can't dance because he left his headphones on the seat of her car.
Great lyric.
And
losing
the
your-
ache in his voice is so palpable.
It gets back to we always talk about with Weezer, the specific that's turned into a universal.
Yeah.
The idea I can't even dance in the dark because my headphones are still in the seat of her car is such a specific yet universal
Just
line.
stepping into your room being like, oh,
Yeah, I left my phone
Shit.
charger at someone else's house last night.
oh, Chris.
Oh. Was
But
it
yeah,
your
like-
parents?
No, it was not my parents. I just realized that maybe
It
that's
is
why.
melancholy to a T.
Oh, so melancholy.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's called Endless Bummer, Endless Summer.
kind of also endless is the same as sort of infinite, melancholy and the infinite sadness.
Sure, why not?
By one of their contemporaries, the
Smashy Pumps,
smoosh poop,
the Smop Pops.
the smeet beep.
Yeah, I just realized that maybe that's why Weezer are such a meme band, because the whole idea of memes is very minute, mundane, specific experiences that are blown up into
Yeah.
a global experience that's everyone has this experience.
Yeah.
When the whole FBI man on my phone
Sure.
the one thing that's I wonder if the government's spying on me. Okay, let's make it into this stupid meme and way overdo it.
Yeah, a lot of memes are either references to things from childhood,
Yeah.
or are just these things, small things that you don't ever really think about, but someone points them out and you're oh yeah,
I always saw them more as it's a thing that you think only you do, and then you find out.
Yeah, bad like Brian or whatever. It's just these very specific things cut out of their context and then shared around.
yeah. Wow, I think we really made a breakthrough there. This song.
The incredible sadness seeping in these lyrics, and it is just so perfectly smoothed over by that acoustic guitar strumming.
And especially following Jacked Up, they're sort of opposites in that regard, where Jacked Up is a very melancholy song that's accompanied by melodramatic like piano and like all this stuff. And then Endless Bummer is a very, very simple song, like very mellow song. Like if it had different lyrics, it would like it could easily be a happy song. But it's like, yeah, it's just sort of like this like subversion of the idea of summer and the idea of making a beach album or a summer album, which is why it's so good as an ending track.
No, this song is the feeling of like falling in love with someone over a summer and then having that like end and them going away. And like, song came out years after the fact, but hearing the song now reminds me of when I did fall in love in the summer. And like, the song has made me cry because it is such a direct connection to the feeling of that summer and the ending of that summer.
And that like whole like the line, like it's like a curse you see this bummed out feeling that she's over me. Ooh.
Yeah, just like that codependent like
And I feel like the implication there is like she's over me and I'm not over her.
Yeah.
Whew.
and like again that immature sexuality. I put my jacket over my head. I'm trying not to stare at her chest.
Yeah.
So like just like how did he go out there and perfectly capture the sense of adolescence, which we've been blaming him for trying to do for so long?
Yeah.
Like, stop pandering to these weird teenage emotions
stop
that you're like
Stop trying
approximating.
to be a teenager. You're 40 whatever years old.
And now
But
he
then-
does it and does it perfectly. And
Yeah.
it's like,
That's what's so weird about Everything Will Be Alright and this album as like a pairing.
this album is what Ratitude wanted to be.
Well, I mean,
guess,
I feel like the
yeah.
thing about Ratitude was it felt like not that he was just like singing about being young, but almost like pandering, like trying to pander to like young people or like high school age people. Whereas this one, he's really not trying to pander to anyone. It's just sort of singing about that.
Yeah, and like this, like, well, we're talking about like, you know, like summer romance stuff. Like this can easily apply to like someone in their like college age, early 20s, mid 20s. Like it's not specific to someone in high school or younger. Whereas like some of the songs on Ratitude feel like they're written for like 12 to 14-year-olds, which is like another level of like immaturity.
That's true.
Yeah, no, that feels like for like Ratitude felt like songs for like actually immature people and not just like sexually or romantically like immature.
Well, either way, just the fact that
And there's a certain self-awareness on this album of the immaturity.
oh, definitely. But I don't. This song is not. It's self-aware, but it's not like ironic or sarcastic at all. It's like it's so fully there and in the moment and sweet in a way that doesn't come off as like too sweet or pandering. It is just like so genuine and cathartic. Like this song is just like one big release of all the pent-up emotion that's been like building up the whole time. And like that end where the drums actually kick in and there is that whole tiny little solo, it is just this perfect, like the emotion washing away like the noises of the beach that come right after it. Such a good song.
It is a good one.
It's really, really great. Do we have anything more we want to say about this song?
No, it's really good.
So, we're almost done with the Weezer albums. This came out only 2 years ago. It was a critical success. It was a commercial success. And definitely, like, it kickstarted Weezer being way more back in the public eye, I feel like.
Definitely.
Yeah, like at this point,
And which they are still sort of riding on, it feels like.
Weezer's like very back into this. Is probably the most like in it they've been since somewhere around Make Believe or Red, something like that. Just because like Pork and Beans was so viral,
Yeah, that's true,
especially with the music video. Like it's gotten to the point where like on like any music forum or like place online where people talk about music, like Weezer gets brought up very frequently.
Yeah.
Like, or any like thread you go to where people are like, oh, what's like a 10 out of 10 album, or like an album where like you sit through it, listen to it from like cover to cover, and it's like amazing. And then like there's always people saying like, oh, Blue Album and Pinkerton and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is weird that we started this podcast in January, and I feel like we did a lot of talking about how Weezer back then was primed to come back into the spotlight, and they were, But then kind of this whole Africa cover came out, and that seems to have been like an explosion.
Yeah.
They are back in the Billboard
Yeah.
at 200.
Hate that shit. This Africa thing is so annoying.
It actually is. Like, I like how it's bringing attention back to
Yeah.
Weezer, but I feel like it was kind of done as a joke. Even like Patrick Wilson
Yeah.
said something along the lines of like he posted like a picture of Africa being like the #1 song on like iTunes at like a specific point, and saying like, oh, it's like showing up to a volleyball game with a basketball and like winning. Maybe I got that backwards, but yeah, it like kind of feels like that. But sort of as a Weezer fan, like I almost feel like slightly betrayed by it. Like not the fact that they put out Africa, but just kind of the fact that they're like, it was something like as half-assed as it was.
Yeah, well,
and
it's
then
like-
like they're just kind of riding it, which I don't blame them for. But I feel like this is going to push back the release of their next album.
Yeah, to
'Cause
me, it's like with these last 3 albums, it's like, oh, like Weezer's actually good. Like Weezer's been putting out good albums, and then they do this, and it's like, oh, they're a meme band again. Like,
Yeah.
like they already were a meme, like with like Red and Ratatouille, like in that era. Like it's like you already did this, and like most
The
people,
results were not good.
Exactly, like it caused your like career and like critical acclaim to like take a sharp downturn.
I feel like Toto is really like riding this out too.
Well, I
But
mean,
this isn't a Toto podcast, so
oh, can't
we'll
wait
save
for
that
podcast.
for the Toto podcast.
Save that until they cover Hash Pipe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is alleged to be coming out soon.
Well, that's also weird because like White Album came out, and it feels like right around that time, Rivers immediately started going like Black Album around the corner.
Yeah.
And then Pacific Daydream came out, and it was very clear these are
It's
songs
not
that I
Black
made kind of on the side of making the Black Album.
Oh, Black.
Yeah, he kind of threw them all into like a folder, like songs that they were jamming. It's like, these sound like too beachy, right? So he threw them in a folder called like beach songs or something. And then it turns out like that folder was like getting pretty big. So just like, you know what we're going to do? We're
Yeah.
going to.
Right.
So now, and then he was saying in interviews that whole Jake Sinclair was pushing me towards like a more conventional, like he was
Yeah.
being the voice of the fans.
Almost, yeah, he was like too much of a fan to produce the album.
But then he was saying like, oh, the White Album is like went head to head so many times, and the White Album is him coming out on top.
Yeah.
And then he said the Black Album is going to be me coming out on top with all my weird creative stuff, and it's like, what? What could that possibly sound like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like we're not at the end of Weezer yet. We'll discuss this probably on the next episode.
We'll talk about the current state of Weezer.
Yeah. Or that could be its own episode, honestly. We'll talk about it at some point. But yeah, this is a great album. Where do you guys stand on this versus Everything Will Be Alright? Tyler, I know it's a very near and dear album to you, so
Yeah.
I assume you put White over Everything Will Be Alright.
I do. I think everything. Looking back, there's just one or two kind of awkward spots. Like the Future Scope trilogy doesn't like land as well as I would like it to. Back to the Shack like isn't that good.
Yeah.
Things like that. Whereas the White Album, like the heights of everything are really great. Foolish Father is an amazing song. But then it's like, oh, they were like peaking up to this point. It's like White Album feels like it's just right at 10 the whole way in terms of enjoyability, dynamics, the amount of musical talent they're bringing to the forefront, how well it's mixed, how much lyricism Rivers is bringing to the table, how well they gel together as a band. And in all those respects, I think White is as close to a 10 out of 10 perfect album that a band like this in their position could make. Like for a 10th album of a band that has such a troubled career, I can't think of any way this album could really be that much better. So in that sense, it really is like pretty much a perfect 10 for me.
Okay, I like that take. Chaz, what do you think about that sort of matchup between the two comeback albums?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer Everything Will Be Alright in the end. I think that might be for like different reasons. Like this is kind of the album that got Tyler into Weezer, and then like this was sort of the Weezer album where like when it first dropped, I was like, holy shit, like this is incredible. And I think they've got very different feels. Like I feel like this album is more of a summery album, whereas Everything Will Be All Right is more of a fall album, right? Which
As you can see by their album covers.
Yeah, plus like for so many different reasons, like fall really is like my favorite season. I think the songs, I really do prefer the songs, like largely at least off of Everything Will Be All Right in the end, like songs like Foolish Father, Da Vinci, Eulogy for a Rock Band, and of course like I've Had It Up to Here. I think like Back to the Shack really does fall short, but yeah, I think the White Album is a little too kind of, I shouldn't say like anything negative about it because like I really love the White Album, but it's kind of like I wasn't as impressed with it as I was with Everything Will Be All Right in the end when it came out. And then it seems like kind of a very consistent album where the songs like flow into each other, almost like a Green Album type thing. Whereas Everything Will Be All Right in the end, like they've got a lot of very unique songs on it.
Yeah, I think I feel like I landed somewhere in the middle. Like Everything Will Be All Right is definitely a more ambitious album, and whereas White Album is more of a pop album, but I really like pop music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. Listening to Everything Will Be All Right in preparation for the last episode really made me respect it a lot more. But listening to this again, I was I listened to it for the first time last week preparing for this episode, and I was like, oh, this album's just okay. And then we were listening to it tonight, and I was like, no, this album's actually really great. Like, it's a great pop rocky like power pop album. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think I'm right in the middle. I don't think I've reached a final decision on that yet.
Oh, to me, there's such a strong, tangible feeling. I've been listening to this for a lot. For a lot of time over the past 2 years. And every single time, there's just such a strong feeling of a band that has got its groove back and found the second wind and has hit its stride yet again. And it's just like freaking just nailing it every time.
Pumping your fist. Yeah, I mean, good album. I'll say that much.
It's good music.
So, the final rating of this album: California Kids, LA Girls, Wind in Our Sail, Girl We Got a Good Thing, Do You Want to Get High, King of the World, Summer Elaine and Drunk Dory, Jacked Up, Thank God for Girls, Endless Bummer. Solid ranking. I said before we started recording that I liked our team list better than I liked any of our own individual lists, including my own. So I'm pretty happy with how things turned out.
Do we have any final thoughts on the album that we didn't get a chance to really talk about?
I don't think so. It came out. It did well commercially. Did pretty well critically. Like it's like a shade. It's pretty much the same critically as Everything Will Be All Right in terms of how it was received, and way more successful commercially.
Yeah. Did you guys kind of notice that on this one they really didn't use backing vocals as much as they have on like other albums, or like they've used them in less interesting ways?
Yeah,
I kind of found they did that
like less standout ways.
Yeah,
I thought they were more just like kind of layered directly into the background.
Yeah, and for like really the first time in Weezer's discography, like didn't talk about this once on this album because they really didn't do it, like changing up the final choruses and stuff.
We barely talked about Brian on this episode, which I think is like emblematic of the situation. Yeah, I think that kind of comes with the territory of like making surf music, is like the harmonies can be some kind of obvious sometimes. Although like the Beach Boys obviously have like insane harmonies, so I don't know.
I feel like they're just kind of stacked on top of each other right in the middle, and the mixing and mastering is such that it's just kind of one big pop thing. There's a lot of reverb, but it's all just kind of stacked. There's no real...
There's no Brian in the other room shouting his lines.
He's not overlapping. He's just singing with Rivers in the background.
Yeah, it's more of like a group, like a doo-wop group kind of dynamic. Album recommendations.
I'm gonna recommend Taboo by Denzel Curry. He is part of this newer crop of rappers. I feel like I kind of lost touch with a lot of the rap community.
You lost touch with the kids?
Sometime around 2015.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like I felt like I had a dad moment where it's just like I felt like from like 2011 up until 2015 I was like keeping abreast of like I was waiting for people to drop albums and I was ready for it, and then like I just kind of turned around and it was like, oh, like Lil Xan is doing something and like all these
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, who? Like
21 Savage.
Yeah.
Like
XXX. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, a lot of people really came onto the scene then, and a lot of the rappers that I followed back around that time kind of dropped albums that I didn't personally feel like lived up to the expectations or the hype for them. So it was like very easy for me to fall off then.
I would say like I listened to Lil Boat in 2016.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really cute and like, you know, it's got its own thing going. And that was one of like 12 other albums that all came on board in 2016 and like a new community of rappers.
It's also a lot of volume from those rappers specifically. Like,
they are very high volume. Like,
because like back
quantity
in
quantity over quality.
back in like the early like 2010s, like the big names were like Kanye West, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, like J. Cole,
A$AP Rocky.
Yeah, like all these guys, and it felt like there was a few of like those really big ones, and you were just like constantly waiting for new shit to come out from like some of those. And then when like they kind of all fell flat, I stopped listening to like rap for a bit, and then like trying to get back into it, it was like all these new names, don't even know where to start with it.
With that said, Taboo by Denzel Curry is like all of these trap party whatever albums, but the enjoyment is just cranked up all the way on everything. And I listened to it. I think the day it came out, there were like he put out acts at a time. There's 3 acts and like 4 batches of 4 or 5 songs. I didn't do any of that. I just listened to the whole thing, and I finished it, and I clicked it the first song and listened to the whole thing again. It is so dynamic and enjoyable, and everything's just cranked up to 10. I think it's going to become the gold standard for this style of music. Like it reminds me a lot of Rodeo by Travis Scott, which is an album that I loved a lot for a very long time.
$$, caught.
They are adjacent styles, and like just the feeling of like, oh, this is what this music is trying to be.
Yeah, like this is like the future kind of.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, Taboo by Denzel Curry.
I will check that out for sure.
It literally just came out this week.
Nice.
Oh.
Chaswick?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna follow my normal kind of thing of like recommending an album that's like not that obscure and not that new either.
That's okay.
But an album that I liked, like I go through phases with a lot where I'll listen to it and then like not really think about it for a while and then come back and listen to it some more and appreciate like different aspects of it. But one that I think a lot of Weezer fans would appreciate too if they've never listened to it is Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American. I'm dying. It's kind of got that like it's an album from 2001, like a sort of pop rock like 2001 emo album. Yeah, a lot of catchy songs on it, a lot of more like emo sounding songs with like kind of darker, depressing lyrics, some harder songs on it. I think there's really kind of a bit of everything on it especially for like a Weezer fan. Like I feel like if you're a Weezer fan, there's at least going to be 1 or 2 songs on this album that you'd really like. Obviously everyone likes The Middle.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine someone not liking that song?
No.
Maybe from the point of it being overplayed, but
nah, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend an album that came out a few weeks ago. That is Head in the Clouds by 88 Rising. If you're not familiar with them, it's this sort of like YouTube channel / record label / like video / management company. It's a whole weird conglomerate of things. But you might have heard of Joji or Rich Brian. Those are like the two kind of big names that they have. And they released this Posse album a few weeks ago. It's a bunch of like summer songs, kind of like pop rap, very, very fun songs. I've just been playing it a lot recently and really enjoying it. So yeah, check that out. The song Midsummer Madness is a low-key song of the summer contender. I'll play it for you guys afterwards. But yeah, good album. So that's going to do it for this episode of In the Garage. Great discussion.
Can I just say, it feels so good to be into Weezer right now and to talk about Weezer right now.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, Weezer rocks. And I did my hands in the sign of the rock.
I'm doing my hands in the Weezer symbol.
Nice. For Tyler and Chaz, I'm Chris. Have a great day.
You can pray
You
the
put
gay
a lot of
away.
trust in me
Or
with all the shit you say about
It's
my
true.
microphone.
The shit
you
you said
ruin
was
me.
published.
You've just got a whole like collection of shit.
I've got the ultra edit of
You've got
Fart mic.
yeah. In case I ever run for public office.
Leave that in though.
Chaz running for public.
I've thought about it,
I can see you running for public office.
but you can't see
And I
me
can
getting
easily-
very far.
No, I can see people like liking you and like wanting to vote for you, but it's like your history is
a little bit of
I
a.
need to dig up dirt on you that would make you unelectable.
Oh my gosh,
You
that
have
would
to
be.
scrape your fingernail and you would come up with dirt.
Yeah, I've said some pretty iffy things, although
Yeah, like they really only get into like
oh, that's an odd sound for my phone to make out of nowhere.